Yo, surprise. What is going on, everybody? This is Randolph Forward 19, the man with the million. And, well, we are here, me and Jez, to talk about the Xbox Showcase. So, Jez, managing editor, someone who was just literally on a plane for 20 hours. We are here. How's it going, buddy?
Dude, I'm digging deep right now for you guys. Just know this. I am digging deep for you guys. I just finished traveling 20 hours, grueling epic flight, and then another flight from Paris, and it's always rough doing that kind of travel, but I've slept and I feel I'm in recovery mode, so we do feel a little bit better. I got my juice here. Lovely Robinson's Real Fruit in every drop. Orange juice, squash. And my lovely fan, because it is absolutely fucking roasting in the UK right now. It's warmer in the UK than it was in Los Angeles, which makes no sense whatsoever. But we are here, Rand. We are energized. Yeah. And what a show. What a show, baby.
Yeah, I figured... with everything going on, since you were in LA, I streamed my reactions to the show on Sunday, and I talked a little bit about it afterwards, and I made a video. But I know people want to hear what we both have to say, and we were planning on having, guests on Friday. We were planning on having a bigger show to get more people who were at LA to get a, wider perspective of, everything that happened. I was we probably need to also provide people, at least just me and you, for a special episode. So this isn't, even though I think I did title it episode 270, this isn't episode 270. I removed it. This is just going to be a shorter version of, a special, an extra episode of Xbox 2, because Jez thought we were going to do Ultimate today. I'm like, no, we talked about this. This is just our reaction. So it's going to be a shorter show, maybe 2 hours or something. It's got no Patreon questions, because we're just going to be talking strictly about the showcase. And then Friday, we're going to have a bigger show for you all. So yeah, do us a big favor, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. Man, so Jez, how did it feel to be down in LA with everybody? And shout out to Dante Moody for becoming the newest member of the channel. I know.
Yeah, I met Dante in LA.
It's been a while since you were there, but what was the atmosphere like? Was it electric?
Man, I saw Xbox fans before the show, and I think there was still this sense of will it be good? Will it be another disappointment? That kind of thing. But then when I got to the showcase, I saw Phil and I saw Aaron, and they had this confident swagger, almost like a chip on their shoulder kind of thing. And Phil was like to me, wait till you see the opener, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Phil very much, sadly, but you could just see they knew they had a good show. And I watched the event from the press room. So there was a press room set up with tables and Wi-Fi and stuff, so we could write. So my experience of the show is probably a little bit different to a lot of people, because I'd be watching it, and then I get assigned an article and then go heads down for a bit. So I did miss a couple of trailers because I was writing news posts about the show. For example, I've still not really watched the Star Wars trailer. But I did see most of it, and coming out of the show, you could hear people cheering and stuff, going crazy. The press and the Xbox fans that were there, the people who turned up for FanFest and stuff. It was really special. Even though it wasn't a true E3 sort of thing, it still felt it felt like more than. It felt really different. It felt like it felt like a turning point, man. It felt like Xbox has turned a corner now, well and truly turned a corner, and that Redfall was just a blip. I think a lot of us were worried that Redfall was going to be the rule of thumb.
I wasn't
But I
worried.
read, yeah. Well, some people were worried.
You were worried. I wasn't.
I was a bit worried, but it's just well apparent now that Redfall was just a blip, and that everything. Now that we're coming out of the pandemic, now that we're coming out of, that sort of weird period of integration where the studios are finishing up their previous products and the previous games, and integrating more deeply with Xbox's systems and stuff. We started seeing the first wave of games from In Exile and Compulsion, and some of these other studios that were acquired a few years ago, and they all look absolutely spectacular, man. I think I was interested in playing every single game that was shown, and I don't think there's ever been a showcase like that for me. So yeah, crazy
Crazy indeed. We have Paris in the chat saying Jez gave me beans. You were giving people beans.
Man.
You sent me a picture of. So get the bean story before we get into everything. I gotta know. The Xbox 2 chat has to know what is up with the whole beans thing that was going on.
Okay, so if those on Twitter might have seen that I was walking around with cans of beans, distributing them to random people, and Paris was indeed Paris of the Gamertag Radio and Xcast and various other productions. Paris wears a lot of hats these days.
Mm-hmm.
He was endowed with the holy X beans. So someone at Xbox hilariously decided to troll me and bought me a box of 8 cans of beans to one of the events. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do with these beans? I don't have carry-on luggage. I mean, I don't have check-in luggage, and they won't let you take food through security in your carry-on luggage. So I was like, well, we have to distribute the beans to the people. So I was just going around I was drinking in LA, like the song, and giving people baked beans and trying to explain to them how they should prepare these beans for a delicious meal. I don't know if anyone will actually go all the way through and make beans on toast with said beans, but that was the beans. It was very hilarious, and it's a E3 memory I will cherish for many years to come.
I mean, it's kind of crazy that they gave you some beans and that you were just giving them away to random people.
People were so confused. I thought it was really interesting, the dichotomy here, because I tried to give Danny Pina, who's also from Gamertag Radio, I tried to give him a can of beans, but he declined. He was passionately declined, like, no, Jez, I don't want any beans, sorry. But then I tried to give some to Paris, and Paris was far too polite to say no to the beans.
Like, he wanted to tell you no, but he just keeps...
Everyone wanted to tell me no, but a lot, you kind of got some insight into people's deeper inner workings. Like Snowbike Mike as well also accepted the beans. Too polite to say no. And, oh man, it was just funny, man. It was a great time, really great time. But as awesome as beans is, Rand, it's not about the beans.
Yes,
it's about the games, baby.
It is. It is.
And there were so many games. So many games.
There were. We have a super chat here from Name Christian Jez. Thoughts on the No Need for Series X Pro by Phil? What do you think? Because that came out in an interview later, I believe, with like Bloomberg, where they asked him about the PS5 Pro or something, and he was like,
"It was Giant Bomb, wasn't it?"
Maybe it was Giant Bomb. I thought maybe it was Bloomberg, but basically Phil said, "Yeah, that's not it's not the feedback we hear." Blah 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 blah. But it's kind of one of those things where like, well, what do you expect him to say? It's not like if it was real, it's not coming out for a couple years, so he's not going to tell them, oh, by the way, yeah, we're totally working on a Series X2. Just wait for it. Like, what else are you going to say? Yeah, we don't think there's a need for it right now. And the feedback is people don't want it, so we're not going to make it, but, it could change in 2 years, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's kind of a catch-22, and like we've run polls, right? We've run polls on Xbox 2 and on Twitter, um that about whether or not people want a second console so soon, but after the Starfield 30 FPS narrative, which we're going to get into in a
Oh
bit,
yeah, that's a big thing, isn't it?
yeah, I see people calling for a mid-gen refresh now. So initially, it was like we don't people. I would say most people were saying they didn't want a mid-gen upgrade. I think it was something like 60-40, right? If I remember right, Rand, when we ran those polls, like on because
Yeah,
when this topic came up before, there's rumors that PlayStation's doing it. So we were asking people in chat, like, do you want a mid-gen refresh Xbox Series X? And it was like 60-40. Most people saying no, we haven't seen what the Xbox Series X can
yeah. They're
do
like the
yet.
generation hasn't even begun because everything's kind of been cross-gen, right?
Yeah. But now, like, with the 30 FPS Starfield stuff, I've seen a lot of people saying, like, at least in my replies, qualitative evidence, that a lot of people were like, man, we really need that mid-gen upgrade so we can get Starfield to 60 frames per second, So I'm kind of like, at least for me, I don't care about a mid-gen upgrade. I've always said, and I've consistently said on this show, that I don't care about 30 frames per second for a single player game. I want 60 frames per second for a multiplayer game. You want it to be responsive. I feel like 30 FPS is a disadvantage in FPS combat when it's in a competitive context. But I survived the 360 gen playing games at 30 FPS. I play games 30 FPS on my Switch. It doesn't bother me. I mean, it's nice to have, but the Starfield is just so many systems of complexity layered on top of each other that I would rather have the complexity rather than a static, flat to standard open world kind of game. And you can have 60 FPS if the background is just flat and you can't interact with all the objects and there's no like modularity. All those systems like building spaceships and stuff, that's CPU overhead, that they've decided to use for processing the world rather than delivering a higher frame rate, which I'm totally fine with. But I sort of like, I suppose what the issue is like, what are the reactions going to be if PlayStation does it but Xbox doesn't do it?
Yeah, that's the thing. That'd be a weird situation to put yourself in because, well, people will bring up past interviews that Phil did where he said we'll never lose the power crown again or whatever. And if PlayStation comes out with like, all right, well, here's a pro model that is, I don't know, 22 teraflops, say whatever, or at least the goal is 4K 60 on everything with ray tracing or what have you, then that maybe puts Xbox in a not so good light that they're not offering the same thing to their customers. I don't know. I don't really take too much stock into what Phil said about a product that may come out 2 years from now because what do you expect him to say? He's not going to say, "Oh yeah, by the way, we're making one," because then people who might buy the Series X would hold off and be like, "Oh, actually, I'll just wait for the, and they're not going to like announce something that far in advance." So it'll just have to wait. I mean, we'll eventually know if the PS5 Pro comes out. And then if Xbox doesn't talk about it, then we'll know they're not doing one, right? So,
yeah.
But yeah, the talk has kind of like, especially with Jedi Survivor's performance mode and how bad that was. Now Starfield 30 FPS, right? Like the talk is like, all right, well, maybe we do need this. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the future. We got Lede saying, great showcase, but bad showing from Avowed. And the deep dive didn't help. Why did Xbox choose to show such a cool cinematic CG trailer for a AA game? Jez, you could talk about like a negative from the show. A lot of people would say Avowed would probably be it. And shout out to Maker of Chaos 12 for becoming the newest member of the channel. A lot of people, there's like a split with Avowed, mainly because how it looked.
Well, I wrote in my preview that it looked like that, pretty much. I mean, if you remember when I wrote about the leaked footage that I wrote, I said it looked like Outer Worlds, like it had that sort of stylized, less photorealistic kind of art style. It has improved a lot since that footage I had, but it still essentially looks similar. You know, you have to remember that Obsidian is a comparatively smaller team to the likes of Bethesda Softworks, to the likes of Ubisoft's teams working on Assassin's Creed, or even like 343 or the Coalition. They're a comparatively smaller team. You know, we're not talking like 500 devs here. So the way it looked didn't surprise me at all because, you know, I've seen it. And you've seen it. You know, were you surprised after seeing the footage that I shared with you?
No, I was not surprised after it looked exactly like I thought it was going to look like. But then again, I had seen it, so I was kind of like, I sort of knew. Like, I'd always said that the game resembled a more colorful Skyrim. And that's what it looked like to me. Like, it looked like Outer Worlds and Skyrim sort of had a baby, and it was bright and colorful. So what I saw was like, yeah, this kind of looks in line with, you know, the footage that you shared. I think a lot of people were let down by what it seemed like a change in tone from the CGI trailer. Like, the CGI trailer seemed darker, grittier, while then the actual like game seemed a bit more brighter, a bit more colorful. So maybe it didn't match the iconographies, and what people thought in their heads didn't like match up. So people saw that and were like, what is this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of I remember having that feeling when I saw the footage. I was like, oh, this is really bright and colorful. And I was wondering, like, is this just because they're using assets from the Outer Worlds as a sort of placeholder or whatever? And honestly, the new trailer is less colorful than the footage I had of Avowed from 2021. So they've actually reined it in a bit from what I saw. But yeah, I mean, it's encouraging to me that they talk about they want it to have depth, and there's a big focus on the companion gameplay. So that kind of that Mass Effect tradition, which Obsidian is carrying forward instead of BioWare, you know. So while we wait for BioWare to get its shit together with Dragon Age and Mass Effect, it's Obsidian who's like doing this, like, you know, with the Outer Worlds as well. That the Outer Worlds had that Mass Effect companion gameplay tradition, you know, where you know, you could do the companion side quests and all that kind of stuff, and really get to know your team and stuff like that. And I think like when they talked about refocusing the game, because Jason Schreier, Bloomberg, who I met, by the way.
Did you?
In LA.
Was it?
Yeah,
he's a
nice,
nice, nice dude. Were a lot of people
nice
talking to? Were like people from Xbox coming up and talking to him? Like, kind of, you know, we're in danger of getting another story or something. What's going on?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Probably. Jason's always cooking, man. But he seemed like a cool guy. But he was talking about how, you know, the Outer Worlds was sort of refocused or whatever, and then Obsidian came out and reiterated that. And in some of the interviews that I saw that I shouldn't have seen, they did talk about this stuff. And one of the things they talked about was the fact that they were trying to do something way out of their scope, you know. And I think co-op gameplay was something they were actually exploring for Avowed at one point. And clearly from the trailer, I think if it did still have co-op, we would have seen a glimpse of that in the trailer. So it does seem like co-op is not going to be in now, I would guess. And there's been no mention of co-op in any of the interviews. So it does seem like they're just sort of focusing on what made Outer Worlds great. And even though Outer Worlds was not like this huge sort of super high budget photorealistic hundreds of thousands of hours of content. It had a huge amount of depth, a huge amount of memorability, characters you remember and you care about, and events and gameplay that was infectious and really high quality. So I kind of want that experience. I kind of don't need every game to be 1,000 hours long like Starfield. I'm totally happy for them to sort of go deep on a memorable, maybe shorter, tighter experience. Because there's all this discussion about like a game's getting too damn long and stuff like that. So I'm fine with what Avowed's going for, personally. I don't think it's a negative at all. And but maybe that's because I had seen it in development and it looked way better than the footage I had.
Yeah.
So it felt like a step up for me, but I don't know. I think they'll get there, but you have to remember that they're developing Avowed sort of alongside the Outer Worlds 2. So there's a lot of developers on Outer Worlds 2 as well. So they're sort of going to be bringing a 1-2 punch of like, okay, here's our fantasy Mass Effect Skyrim kind of game, and then here's Outer Worlds 2, which is like our sci-fi Mass Effect Skyrim Fallout kind of game. So I like that. I like the fact that there's devs doing tighter experiences, and not everything needs to be 1,000 hours long.
And then
like
maybe an actual Fallout game.
Yeah,
Fallout New Vegas 2.
I think like that. There's every possibility that after they've finished Avowed and Outer Worlds, maybe all the teams come together and do make something grander, which could be a new Fallout game.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps saying New Vegas 2, but I really don't think it'd be New Vegas 2. They're doing New City. Every Fallout game is a new city, so maybe it'd be Fallout Chicago or something.
I mean, bro, you want me to play a Fallout game set in here in Chicago? Maybe it'd be Fallout Britain, Fallout UK, or something.
I would love Fallout Britain.
Yeah.
That'd be so amazing. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But
we have.
I'm cool with it.
We have Maker of Chaos. Just wanted to say, keep up the good work, gents. Always appreciate your podcast. Thank you. And thank you for everybody for being here. We really appreciate you. Love you all. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. Xbox's gold. Todd said it will have 60, just not at launch. We'll definitely have a lot to talk about Starfield, the 30 FPS debate. Crow says beans, heated in a pan, white bread toasted, buttered, beans on top, add grated cheese to make fancy. Any different from your recipe, Jez?
Black pepper. And if you've got Worcestershire sauce, add some Worcestershire sauce. Can you say that yet, Rand?
Worcester sauce?
No, you can't.
No.
Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire?
Yeah, let's not.
Okay.
Let's not do
Justin says if we get a mid-gen update to Starfield to 60 frames per second, it's not going to be $500. That's for sure. Yeah. Second Coming. Starfield being 30 FPS makes me want a Xbox Series XL. Fly Guy. Hellblade no gameplay. Enough with the cinematics. Yeah, we didn't talk about what our thoughts were, and I think people know my one negative, or at least, well, I have two, but the other one's kind of you can't do much about. Lede says, I wasn't expecting Avowed to be AA, though. On the extended showcase, they said the scope was similar to Outer Worlds, which Obsidian themselves say was AA. So, yeah, I haven't watched the extended showcase yet. So, was it worth watching? Sometimes those things aren't really worth checking out. But I'll probably check out, at least, trailers for stuff, or I'll just, skim through it and look at some of the stuff they showed.
They announced a bunch of ID Xbox games, some new DLC for Hi-Fi Rush at the showcase. I'm gonna watch everything after the show. I'm gonna watch the showcase again. Then I'm gonna watch the Starfield Direct again, probably. Then I'm gonna watch the extended show, and then I'm gonna come armed with mountains of opinions for this Friday's podcast.
You better. I've watched the show twice. I streamed it with the peeps. And then I watched it again in 4K afterwards on my TV. And then I was like, all right. And then I made the video. Because I was like, do I need to make a video? I was like, yeah, why not? And I was so
Why
busy
not?
yesterday.
You're a fucking YouTuber.
I know, but I was just like,
Rand's like, oh,
no. The
make
thing
a
is, but
video,
I had
maybe.
talked about my thoughts on the stream, right? Even
Okay.
afterwards, I was like, well, not everybody's gonna watch the stream, so let me make because I'm pumped. I'm excited. Like they nailed it. You know, I think it was like an A-, B+, and it was just kind of just missing something to push it for that like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 area. If we had just seen Hellblade Combat, where are you, Hellblade Combat? Why have you forsaken me? Why are we seeing?
I got a theory about this.
Why are we seeing? Look, and I'm gonna say this, and I don't mean any disrespect because I love what I've seen of Hellblade 2. Well, that trailer they showed, I had goosebumps, bro. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm shaking because it's exactly what I wanted. The voice acting, the atmosphere, the visuals. I'm like, bro, Senua, like I need this game in my life. I'm not disappointed it's 2024 because that's kind of what I thought it was going to be, was sometime early 2024, hopefully. But I had my heart set on, all right, show me the combat. Because as Jez always loves to make fun of, the fact that I love the first game so much, like, oh, bro, it's just a walking sim. It's just cutscenes and you walk and then you fight for 2 minutes and then you walk again, right? So I'm like, all right, sure. So show me why it's improved. And they just did another cutscene, and I'm just like, granted, it's gameplay. Somebody was controlling Senua. You walk up to the pool, and then it's a seamless cutscene because they're very cinematic. And I'm just like, I want to see the gameplay. I want to see the combat and stuff. Like I don't need to see any more of Senua's saga. Like you don't need to sell me on this game. Granted, I know they do their marketing beats and stuff, but I'm just like, oh my God, please. You know, like I just like if they just had that, it probably would have been like an A, like pure A, like best show they've ever done. Because even with that, I was just like, all right, it's probably the best show they've done since 2018, which I thought was spectacular. And then you could probably go back even earlier years. There are some really good ones. But like when they needed to nail a show, they absolutely did. Especially when you compare it to, you know, what PlayStation just put out. Where like now people are like, well, what's coming to PlayStation after Spider-Man 2? We know, all right, here's Xbox. What's coming after Forza Motorsport? You have the roadmap for 2024, right? You have Hellblade 2.
All I wanted was a roadmap.
You have Hellblade 2. You have Avowed and The Wandering Tower, which got renamed to Towerborn, or maybe it was Towerborn all along, right? And I think Mad Booty even said there's some other games that will come out in 2024 that they haven't announced yet. So at least, and that their goal for the future is 4 games a year. Right, that's what they're aiming for. That's why I've always told you need to acquire more and more and more because games take so long to make that you need as many teams as possible.
Yeah.
So we got the roadmap, right, and then we got looks at some of the other stuff coming later. So we finally got to see Fable. We finally got to see Compulsion's game. We finally got to see, and I'm sure you were super excited, Project Cobalt in Exile. You know, like their game. So it's like, all right.
Look, I mean, I said on Twitter, Starfield's in a category of its own. But like outside of Starfield, Clockwork Revolution totally stole
I knew,
I
bro, when they showed that, I was thinking of you. I'm like, Jez is loving this right now. Jez is probably squealing in the audience with just pure hype and excitement because you love In Exile so much and you're always telling me about it. And I'm like, okay. Right, and then so they did all this, and you look at it, and it's like, all right, you know, there's no Perfect Dark, there's no State of Decay 3, there's no Everwild, so there's no Double Fine, there 343 wasn't there, right? The Coalition didn't show, so it's like you have all these other things that you know are coming. Like Gears is cooking. We know Gears is cooking, right? 343 is going to do what they have to do with Halo. You know, certain affinities doing stuff. It's like, man, they put this all together. They gave you the roadmap and they gave you a look at some of the games coming even further. But then it's like, oh, they have all these other things too. Because Bethesda wasn't there outside of the live service stuff. So it's like, all right, well, what's id working on? Right? I don't know if you saw the Giant Bomb interview where you know, Phil was like, when they was asked like, you know, he was just like, id. He was so excited to talk about it, and and what probably really wants to show what it is. But ZeniMax Online, right? Some of those the machine games in Indiana Jones or like Wolfenstein 3. So like that's why I think the show, when you look at it from the Jeff Keighley poll perspective, because I mean, how do you judge how people felt about this? There's not a lot of data points to look at. The one that we can, and I'm not saying it's of the best tool available, but maybe the only tool that we have at our disposal, is Jeff Keighley always puts out a poll and he's like, hey, how do you feel about these shows, right? And usually they're in the B or C range. Like PlayStation's show was in the C's. His own show was in the B's. And so it's like, okay, so how did Xbox perform? So his poll right now has 140,000 votes, which is quite a lot, right? 140,000 people voted on the Xbox showcase, and 52.7% gave it an A. 29% gave it a B, 10% gave it a C, and 7% gave it a D. So when you like look at it, like
the people giving it a D, I just imagine them clicking through like teary eyes.
Yeah, like no, it's a D, damn it!
It's a stupid D. And that was before they even knew that it was Starfield was going to be 30 FPS.
Yeah, so I mean,
cringe.
You look at more than half the people thought it was an A, but even in combined A and B, you're looking at 81% essentially. So by at least the people's perspectives, this was their best show, and it had to be, especially considering how people felt. Like the great thing that this show did is it seemed to have just completely wiped the taste and the memories that people just had a month ago when people were calling for Phil Spencer's job, where people were saying that Xbox will never be able to make anything good. Like it almost seems that people have amnesia now after the show, after how good Starfield looked. And that's, I think, was the important thing. Because yeah, all these games look great and stuff, but they're still kind of next year. But you have Starfield coming in a couple months, and Jez, Starfield looks like the most ambitious game ever made. Right? Like it's shocking. That direct completely nailed everything, and I think it sold Xbox in a way that maybe Game Pass hasn't or couldn't, because it's never had a game of this caliber in it. Like every like 5 minutes that passed that Starfield Direct, like, okay, you got this, but you can do this. Oh, and it's this. Oh, and how much is in this? Like, what the hell? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like this is Todd Howard. You know, these are the guys who made Skyrim and dragged Fallout out of the 2D isometric era. You know, like Skyrim is a legendary game. I think they announced this week that it sold 60 million copies or something like that.
Yeah,
it's one of the best-selling games of all time. Like Skyrim, Elder Scrolls and Skyrim is up there with like your Mario and your Zelda and stuff like that. That's why I said earlier, Starfield's in a category of its own. Like when we're talking about reactions about the show, it's kind of like, well, Starfield obviously is Starfield, and then everything else is being considered. And that's not to denigrate like the other games at all. It's just in recognition of the fact that this is insane. What they are doing with Starfield is insane. Yeah. It's crazy. You don't like you can't like really express it. And if you're not into those kind of games, you're not into Skyrim and Fallout 4 and stuff like that, like the Todd Howard RPG experience, that's completely fine. But if you're an RPG fan and you enjoy the sense of role playing that you get out of games like D&D and stuff like that, that's the tradition. That's the tradition that Todd Howard is carrying forward here. Like the ability to simulate yourself in a fantastical world and situation where you can be what you want. You can be a space cowboy with a mining ship, and do all this kind of crazy stuff. All the things that games like Elite Dangerous promised, and Star Citizen promised with his $500 million budget, and honestly, neither of them delivered. And I've got like 200 hours in Elite Dangerous, and just 200 hours I was looking for the fun in that game, and the game just has no story. I'm not even going to bother playing Star Citizen because the game's just perpetually early access, right? This looks like my dream game. This is like the holy grail of sci-fi role playing, and so yeah, it's in a complete other category of its own.
It is. It is. We have Andre in Super Chat saying, "Can we all agree? Oh, Fable is the best tagline." I mean, it was pretty good. It set a good tone for everything. Mark Williams.
Yeah, that was great.
He says, "Hi, Jez, missed you on the floor at Xbox Fan Fest. Had Colt Hargeet and Idle Sloth sign my Xbox along with the Xbox Chiefs. Your SIG would have been the cherry. Excited to play Starfield for years to come." Bro, talk about Idle Sloth. What a Chad, dude. What a Chad.
Dude, Idle Sloth is so cool. Like, he looks, he's so dapper, and Idle Sloth has stage presence, man. He has stage presence. Dude's really tall, epic styled hair. Mm-hmm. So cool, man. It was so cool meeting everyone at the show. And, for those I missed, hopefully next year, we can catch up next year.
So how many Xbox 2 fans came up to you? Were there quite a bit? Like, did people come up and be like, "Hey,"
man, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's honestly the first, like the last time I was at E3 was 2019, and I got recognized a couple of times maybe. But this year it was just wild, man. People coming up talking about the Xbox 2 podcast, asking where you were.
Nobody cares about me. Nobody was talking about.
Everyone was asking.
No. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Well, I don't believe it, bro. Everyone was asking where you were.
I mean, everybody was like, "Hey, Gaz on the show. Gaz and Jez should be the podcast duo, not you and Jez." People were even trying to kick me off of my own show. And people talk about, this is Jez Corden's Xbox 2. I'm just chopped liver. So I can't imagine anybody at LA was like, "Where's Rand?"
No, everyone was saying, "Where's Rand, bro?"
Yeah.
Next year you have to go.
Next year
you have to go.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. Fly Guy says, "Hellblade, no gameplay, enough with the cinematics." Yeah, we talked about that. Brendan Lowry says, "Britain is already a wasteland, so a lot of work for a Fallout set there is done already." Oh man,
I mean, he's not wrong. He's really not wrong.
Shout out to Wagaman, who was there. Wagaman was at FanFest. He says, "It was great meeting Jez. What a weekend! What a show! A fantastic future ahead. Love to see the varied art style across all the games. South of Midnight really struck me." Yeah. I'm glad you had a great time. I got to see some of the pictures. He was posting them online. He's always at these things. This is kind of the thing. Like, the Xbox community, a lot of the same people always show up every year because, super fans. It's a little bit harder for, people like Jez to fly over from all the way from the UK, or even me. It's like, do I want to, go? And I looking back on it, maybe I should have went, but I was just like, I don't know about this year. So, Tommy says, "Thanks for all you do. P.S. Need a Tropico 7. Zach M says, "The Outer Worlds comparison was about zones, not scope." Okay. Because I haven't watched the extra stuff yet. Mad Mardigan says, "Hey guys, you missed my super chat earlier." Sorry, I'll try to find it because I think it kind of moved. Face 23 BKNY says, "PS5 2024 Wolverine, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirths, and Stellar Blade." But Face, I thought you said Stellar Blade was this year, bro. Is it suddenly not this year? What's happening? And if we're talking about first party, I mean, unless they bought Square Enix, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth isn't first party. Wolverine would be, but I mean, do you really think Insomniac's going to put out Spider-Man 2 in October and then get out Wolverine the following year? I'm doubtful on that one. I think Wolverine's probably 2025. I mean, that would make Insomniac the most efficient studio in the entire video game industry. At a point here where basically we're lucky if we get one game from a developer in a gen, maybe two at most. You're going to tell me Insomniac put out Miles Morales, a Spider-Man remastered, Ratchet and Clank, a Spider-Man 2, and then a Wolverine in a span of essentially what would be 4 years? teams weren't doing that during the Xbox 360 era, where games only took 2 to 3 years to make. I wouldn't count your chickens on Wolverine being 2024. You know, I mean, it'd be great if it was, but I don't know.
It kind of comes back to what Matt Booty was saying. Like, I think he said this on Giant Bomb, that developers and journalists and gamers all need to accept that AAA is moving to a 4 to 5 year dev cycle standard, up from 2 to 3 years.
I mean, we've sort of seen that, right? So
yeah, we've seen it, and I think some publishers were like, we can get a AAA game out in 2 to 3 years, and they sort of they tie their financials to that. And I kind of think some of the games we've seen from like EA and maybe even Microsoft are kind of like a product of that thought process. But it increasingly feels like they've accepted that, okay, these games need extra years to actually cook. And we're starting to get to a situation where, after Diablo, which is so polished, there's some server issues, but that's just because of its popularity, right? It's kind of but the game itself is just so damn polished. And then Blizzard just went and said, yeah, we've made $666 million,
leaning into that real hard. That whole 666 thing.
They're like, everything's 666 with Diablo, man. It's hilarious, but and that's publishers have got to look at that and be like, well, maybe we should release polished games as well. What if The Last of Us remastered on PC had launched in a very polished state? The game had no review program because Sony didn't want PC outlets to pan it for having, terrible optimization. Why not let it cook until it's polished and then release it in a way that, can find you a new audience on PC instead of like the state that it's in? And other games as well. Cyberpunk even, and I know Cyberpunk was in development for a long time, but after playing I played Phantom Liberty.
Right.
And like I had to keep this a secret. But I actually the week before, well, no. 3 days before I went to LA, I went to Poland to CD Projekt Red headquarters. First time going to CD Projekt Red, and I played Phantom Liberty, and they've changed the whole game.
Really?
They've changed the whole game. Skill trees are revamped.
Changed, huh?
Yeah, the skill trees are revamped. Combat's revamped. They revamped the police reaction system to criminal acts and stuff, which is a big negative feedback point. People wanted it to be more like Grand Theft Auto. Didn't bother me because I was just like, this is an RPG. Why does it even have this system in it? But they did it. They revamped the police response system, which probably was a fairly large investment, and added tons of new features and combat and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of like, man, what would the reaction to Cyberpunk look like if this was the version that the game had launched with?
Are you saying that I should wait for that to come out before I play it?
100%, 100%, because it's almost like a re-release. It adds a whole open world system, a whole new open world quest, side main quest, campaign quest. Completely changes the base game. Adds the combat feels a lot better, flows better, tighter. So, and a lot of the sort of maybe niche combat builds you might want to make. So if you wanted to make a melee focused character, there's a lot of new melee moves that makes melee play better. It just feels so much better. So yeah, if you're currently playing Cyberpunk 2077, wait for Phantom Liberty before you get any further in, I would say.
I mean, that's my plan. I mean, there's a lot of games coming this fall, so it's going to be very difficult to get some time with Cyberpunk. Shout out to Web Dave, Jez and Rand. When is the Game Fast family plan?
Yeah, I'm working. I didn't get a chance to ask that at the show, but I'm still working on getting an answer to that because they're still answering questions from press. So stay tuned for that.
DS Omen says, why do you think Halo Season 4 wasn't at the extended showcase when even Fallout 76 had a minor werewolf event shown there? Maybe,
Hmm.
I don't know. That's a good question. I thought Halo might be there, but maybe they dropped all their info before and that didn't need to be at the show. Maybe they don't want to put the pressures on the team to show something for the showcase, and they just want them to cook, right? Just, hey, just cook. Don't.
I think Halo's sort of like Halo's undergoing a sort of transformation right now, and it kind of needs to. You know, the studio needs to be rebuilt. In a way, the culture needs to be changed, and I think they just kind of like that. When Halo comes back and 343 comes back on the scene, it needs to be in a way that's similar to the showcase, right? It needs to be something really good, really grand, and sort of give Halo fans the kind of hope for the future of the franchise that they deserve to have. And I just don't think I don't think that I don't think it's worth rushing that. They need to get it right. They need to have some really great content, and just let them cook, man. Let them cook.
Let them cook. My brother, Gaming Forte, member for 32 months. No Hellblade combat was a downer, but way too much great content shown to be less than an 8.5. Starfield at 30 FPS is stupid, but that's what PC is for. Okay. Cade says all those games missing, but still a killer showcase. Just means a big showcase next year too. Xbox dropping megatons like it's 1945. I mean, for me, the showcase, and I think I said this on a show because I did 2 podcasts yesterday. I was with Dirk Riggedy and the crew over at We Bleed Green, and then I did a show with MVG and Nate the Hate talking about Xbox. But it seemed the question they asked was, why was there a lot of positive sentiment around this show? And I said, one, because of Starfield. Because Starfield looks like potential game of the generation if they nail everything right. Where it's like, yes, this is why you bought Bethesda for $7 billion. Like this generation-defining game. Like, these games don't come around that often, and it's only on Xbox, right? So it's like, all right, and that's coming soon. But finally, it sort of feels like we're at the moment where, like, Xbox has laid all these dominoes out. And now the dominoes are starting to fall. And that first domino is Starfield, which will then go into Forza Motorsport, which will then go into Hellblade, which will then go into Towerborn, which will then go into Avowed, and rinse, repeat into Fable, into all these other things. So finally, I think people realize and they can see, all right, yeah, I can see what Phil's talking about. I see the vision. The games all here look good. You know, maybe a particular game is not of interest to me, but what people have been waiting for a while, since, you know, it's finally tangible. Like, you have stuff launching at the end of this year, and then, all right, you have something to look for in 2024, and then you all know all the games that are coming after that. So it's, I think for a lot of people, it's that clarity, that visual of like, all right, this is the beginning. I feel it and I can see it, right? I don't know. At least that's kind of my line of thinking, right?
It's my line too. Like, they've turned a big corner. Turned a big corner. Like, you can just see from the raw quality that Fable represents and Clockwork Revolution, these games that are being developed 100% as part of Xbox, and it all looks stellar. It all looks stunning.
But, you know,
I'm really happy.
The proof's always in the pudding. The games absolutely have to deliver. It can't just be a showcase. I know you like pudding. So the games have to be good when they come out. Mike Clark says, Phil trolling Hexen? When is QuakeCon? QuakeCon's in the summer, I think, in August, right? So, yeah. We'll have to see. I don't know. That t-shirt, I don't know what that meant. There was the stuff with ABK, which I don't think we're really going to talk about today. Maybe we'll say that for Friday. But the ABK stuff is heating up, Jez. The FTC filed an injunction to block. The CMA had the CAT had another meeting. It sounds like, oh man, things are getting a little tense. Things are coming down, getting down to the nitty gritty almost, right?
Yeah, I'm like, there was a time, Rand. There was a time where I really did think Xbox needed ABK, and like maybe for them to hit their business goals, ABK would like accelerate that vision, right? And well, Phil himself said it. It's like ABK is about accelerating the vision towards getting a big sort of mobile mobile presence, and Candy Crush, Call of Duty Mobile, Hearthstone, all that kind of stuff. They always talk about mobile gaming, and that's their idea for that. But I really thought like they really needed franchises like Diablo. They really needed StarCraft and World of Warcraft, that sort of Nintendo-like brand power, the nostalgia. I kind of felt like they needed that pedigree of stuff. But after this showcase, it's apparent to me that they don't need ABK. They don't need ABK.
It'd be nice to have, though. It'd be nice to have.
It's gone from like,
put them on. It would have put them on another level. You know what I mean? If they
But it's gone from like, oh god, Xbox needs this. Like in a world where like Halo's become what it is. That Overwatch could replace Halo as their pillar shooter or whatever. And I was kind of like in that mentality that they need Blizzard. But I don't feel that way anymore. After this showcase, I feel like it's just whatever. It's gone from like a necessity to a nice to have, which is great, right? I also felt like ABK needed Microsoft as well to get away from their shareholder culture, and also Kotick and all that kind of stuff. But
Kotick's still got to go.
Kotick's still got to go. Yeah, he's
and the only way to get him to gone is probably this deal. So
yes, right? Probably. But like. Clearly that, but at least for the quality of the game's really delivering. And,
I mean, I'm like 13 hours into Diablo 4, and it's great. It's absolutely great.
I've barely played it,
bro. You beat the game though. You did a review.
I barely touched the end game, man.
I know. Man,
you
were busy.
The game starts at end game. So I
the game ends at the end. No, that's the end. The game ends at the end game.
No.
For me, the game ends.
No, Rand. It doesn't.
For me, it does.
No. After the campaign, you've got to unlock your capstone dungeon. You got to start grinding for your uniques.
Don't care.
Oh,
not happening. Man. When the campaign is over, that game is getting deleted.
Oh, what the hell, man?
What do you think I'm going to spend all that extra time?
Diablo game to stop playing after the campaign? Bro, the game starts after the campaign.
Then why don't you play Destiny? Because it's the same gameplay loop. Of the idea of yes, it is. It totally is.
Destiny is boring, man.
Destiny and Diablo are essentially the same thing. The end game after everything's done is essentially run harder missions to get slightly better gear so you can beat the harder enemies a little bit faster so you can get slightly better gear. That's exactly what all this is, where you need to maximize your build so you can fight the tougher enemies, so you can get better unique items, so you can fight the tougher enemies. I'm sorry, just like in Destiny, that whole gameplay loop doesn't matter to me. I am not going to do that. I'm going to play the campaign, maybe do some extra stuff at the end, but after that, it is over. Just like, I'm done. I don't care about, I need to be level 100 and I need to have all these uniques. That type of stuff's not for me. That may be for you, and that may be for Pong Soul, and that may be for other people, a lot of other people, like the Mike Ybarras. That is not for Randall Thor 19. I got way too many other games to play to be stuck grinding out capstone dungeons and infernal difficulties and ancestral dungeons trying to get cinders so I can upgrade my...
No, come on. Do it a little bit, man.
Nope. Not doing it. Absolutely not. Too many other great games to play, Jez, to be stuck playing one all the time. Sorry. Our buddy Sin Vendetta is here in the Super Chat. He says, Starfield is the game I've dreamt of my entire life. I've been wanting a game like this for so long. I already have pre-ordered the premium edition so I can play it on September 1st. Most likely will be my game of the year. Can't wait. Jez, quick question before we move on, because we got to talk about like everything at the show. Does Zelda have some competition maybe for game of the year? Is it as cut and dry as everybody thinks? Because
man, in my universe, Zelda isn't even under consideration.
Yeah, it's Diablo 4, right? It's Diablo.
It's Diablo. And Diablo and Starfield is just like the only games that are sort of that would be in my game of the year running. But I really do I do think it's not cut and dry, to be honest. I mean, well, it probably is just because of the kinds of people who vote on these awards. It's going to be game journalists vote on the awards. and they're gonna pick Zelda. You know, because they're all of a certain age, they've all got nostalgia for Zelda, blah 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 blah, whatever. That's not to denigrate Zelda. Obviously, it's a great game. Like it does some really amazing things with its engine, all the building mechanics and stuff like that. So, but it's just kind of like there isn't a universe where Zelda doesn't win, I think. But Starfield and Diablo are obviously going to be nominated. You know,
I mean, hopefully, because there's Resident Evil 4. You know, there's Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Sorry. I mean, there's other games.
Resident Evil shouldn't.
Spider-Man 2. I mean,
Hogwarts
Final
Legacy
Fantasy 16. I mean, there are this year's been insane for games and great games. So like,
do you think Hogwarts Legacy should be nominated?
I mean, it has a shot for sure. Like if you probably had like a list of 10, yeah, but it's not a popularity content. It's like, what's the best game? If it was a list of 10 games, Hogwarts Legacy probably would be on it. But if you had to get it down to 6, maybe not. But then it's like, I'm just like watching that Starfield thing. I was thinking to myself, if they deliver on everything they're talking about in this, are you looking at like a Skyrim thing where, all right, this is a 95 Metacritic game because they I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that are skeptical, but. Oh, man, I don't know. Kyle says, Jez, thank you for retweeting the Starfield Korean petition. Many people were pessimistic when I started, but I did it anyway, hoping for a change. Yeah, Xbox needs to get a lot better with the localization stuff. Otherwise, how are you going to reach 3 billion gamers if they can't play the game in their language? That seems to be a problem.
I'm actually gonna do more than a retweet. I'm planning a clickbait article.
You better clickbait. That deserves it.
Deserves
more attention.
It deserves a clickbait article. It's going to be like, forget 30 FPS. This is the real problem with Starfield. You know, because I know like when that hits Google, people in the Google Discover, that will click that headline, right? And then it will bring more attention to the issue because the issue is genuinely important. Like if Microsoft is like, they're all about like hitting like 2 billion gamers or whatever, how are you going to do that if you can't even like match Sony on localization? And yeah, I know Starfield has like hundreds of thousands of lines of dialogue, but you've got billions and billions of dollars. You've got billions and billions of dollars. You can afford billions and billions of translators to make this happen. So, at the very, very least, it should have localized subtitles.
Yeah,
you know, I don't expect every single language to be catered for. Like, I don't expect like. You know, and sorry to all my Welsh fam out there, but there's not going to be a version of Starfield that's delivered in Welsh.
There's no Welsh? No Welsh version?
There's no Welsh version of Starfield coming.
Oh.
There's, you know, so there's not going to be a Cornish localization. Do you know, Cornwall has a language too, right? But there's probably like 150 people.
Are they the people that made up the Worcestershire sauce?
Nah, it's a good distance. Cornwall's a good distance away from Worcestershire, but yeah, sometimes it, you know, it's kind of like, yeah, I get why this small country doesn't have full blown localization, but we're talking about like Arabic, we're talking about Korean. You know, this is like a lot of people speak those languages, and these are countries where Microsoft's supposedly supports. These are listed as countries that have support, you know. So I don't know. We'll continue that fight on Windows Central until they get it.
Yes, clickbait it to get the attention. Xton the Otaku, the way they tease that you can use the Force, I'm guessing it'll work like shouts in Skyrim and has me beyond hyped. Yeah, that little tease at the end of space magic. Okay, yeah. One, about Starfield, they haven't shown how to travel from place to place inside a planet. Not even with the ship. Any idea if that's not in the game so far? It looks like you can only land from space. I don't know how that works. I know that like takeoff and landing is like a loading, like a, you know, like a static screen. Well, not static, but it's like a loading. You don't control it.
Yeah. You can fly. You can clearly fly in space because they've shown space combat.
Yeah.
They've shown space asteroid mining and stuff like that. So clearly you can fly around in space.
But I think he's talking about you go to a location on the planet, but then there's other location on the other side of the planet. Can you actually?
Oh, physically.
How do you get there? Essentially, like
I think it's a loading screen.
Probably, yeah.
maybe.
Maybe it is. Well,
I think a lot of this stuff's going to be instanced, just because like this isn't like a continuous open world like No Man's Sky, for example, because it's still like a creation engine RPG at the end of the day, where um you know it's about the interactivity of the world. So like some of that stuff is kind of like, it's pros and cons, right? Yes, you don't have the full blown sensation of open world flying in Starfield. What you do have is like aggressively detailed worlds and a full blown campaign. So like apparently the main story mission, not including side quest, is like 30-40 hours long. And I know No Man's Sky has story missions and stuff, but it's kind of like not why you play the game in No Man's Sky and other games like that. It's more about the simulation and stuff like that. But there's pros and cons,
yeah,
And
there always are.
I've seen people disappointed about that, but I think it's a fine trade off for having like a genuinely, an actual cinematic story.
Hey, did you? Ralph Wiggum says, "Hope you enjoyed your stay in L.A., Jez. Come to L.A. next time, Rand. Did you get to meet the one and only Ralph Wiggum, Jez?
I did not. I did not get to
you
meet
didn't.
Ralph.
You didn't get to meet him. Oh, come on.
Nah,
Ralph was there. How could you not get the chance to say hi?
There's a few people I didn't get a chance to meet, and it sucks. But it was such a whirlwind trip. It's always a whirlwind trip. I'm hoping like if we go next year, like dip into some of the funds a bit and maybe get some extra days, and maybe we could even do like a planned meetup somewhere, like at the JW Marriott or something.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Taylor says, what do you think about how the Halo community is reacting to the showcase? I'm already seeing Halo YouTubers post videos with titles like Halo has been replaced. Microsoft doesn't care anymore. Yeah, I saw like Paul Tassi say like something along the lines of like, oh, like the hardcore Xbox fans are like, where the hell was Gears and Halo? People are pissed. I'm like, I haven't seen any of that. Like maybe I'm just not in that
I've started seeing Halo content creators speak up, and I think now there is a groundswell. There is a groundswell now of I think it's started by Halo content creators because they don't have anything to make content about.
Well, they're about. I mean, season 4 is about to come out. What do you mean? Like, is that not enough? I don't know.
What's in season 4? Like,
infection? I don't know.
But I get where people are coming from, at least with regards to Halo. I mean, I've heard some absolutely tremendous things about Gears 6. I'm not putting a report together or anything, but I am super excited.
So you can't tell the people?
Heard. Not yet.
Can't tell the people what you've heard about Gears 6? Oh.
I cannot yet, but I'm really excited for Gears 6, and that's why I'm not worried right now. I'm kind of like
let Coalition cook is what you're saying, right? Let them cook.
Yeah. I think Gears is taking that next step up. I think is like Gears is going to go to the next level. So I'm not worried about that. But Gears isn't in the kind of state that Halo's in, because Halo was like originally the face of the brand. It was like Xbox's Mario. It was the game that sort of created the platform in a way, popularized Xbox Live. People bought Xbox for Halo. That era is over now. It's over.
Starfield, baby.
Yeah, Starfield is now. Starfield's going to be the face of the brand after this summer. And that's kind of a shame in a way. And I get like I'm not a Halo fan, but like if I was a Halo fan, I can kind of get why that feels bad, So, but at the same time, I think like I said earlier to a similar question, you don't want them to rush showing up Halo and showing what they've got working on Halo. You want that to be good, When the first time they showed Halo Infinite gameplay, we got the Craig meme, for God's sake.
We sure did.
It's funny now, and it became a meme, and they adopted it, and it became funny. But they've spent all their goodwill bucks on that now. When Halo comes back, whatever, it needs to show up really, really strongly. you know, and I would caution rushing them into this. I would really caution. Don't rush 343. They've had a hugely disruptive couple of years. They've completely gutted the management team. The philosophy of Halo is got a completely new regime. They're almost like rebuilding the studio in a way, you know, restructuring everything. You know, they're still you know, trucking along with Halo Infinite content, keep that at least serviced, but they've got to be looking ahead, man. They've got to move on from Halo Infinite, and they've got to build something new. And you want that to be ready when they show it.
I think the next time you show Halo, it's got to show big. It's got
to be big.
Yeah, you can't just be like, oh, here's an update for Halo Infinite, because I don't think that's going to do much. You need to show something bombastic, you know, a new direction
be
or
big.
something. Yeah. So, you know, I understand like Halo content creators, you know, because sometimes you feel a lot about Xbox in a way where it's like, you know, I'm an Xbox content creator, and it's like sometimes, like right now everything's going great. Right, it's like, yeah, it's great to talk about. We finally get some more games to talk about and how they look and how they play. But you know, for a while there, it wasn't, because it was like the whole Redfall situation and the ABK getting blocked. Right, it's like sometimes you're just in that scenarios where it's like, oh man, this sucks to talk about. I'm not gonna lie to people. I'm not gonna lie and say everything's perfect and amazing. But it's like, you know, it's like one of those things where it's, yeah, I'd imagine the Halo content creators are like, what the hell, you know? But
yeah.
I think I'm like with you. Like
I get it.
Yeah, when Halo shows up again, it's got to be bigger. It's got to be badder, and it's got to be something different, in my opinion. But we'll see.
I want them to reboot it.
I know you do, and maybe they will. Maybe they will do a straight reboot. You know, start over.
It needs a mature rated, grow with the audience, because the audience of Halo, they ain't little kids anymore. They've grown up. So it needs a darker, mature reboot. Remake the first game. Start the whole thing over again. That's what I would do. I would go back to the beginning. Reimagine Halo Combat Evolved, darker, grittier. I mean, Halo Combat Evolved was pretty dark in its own right, and I feel like they've gotten away from that in some ways. But they need to go back to what the Halo's roots, and reimagine it for the audience that has grown up, you know. And yeah.
No, I agree. Highlander, member for 10 months. I got my ROG Ally. Great playing World of Warcraft and other MOMs. I don't know what that means. On my 80i TV, Xbox on the go, Starfield looks like it'll be fired. Going pirate as once it's out. I mean, pirate's a way to go. Silly Mikey says, Rand Jez, do you think that we're going to see Sony start struggling with quality releases now that they're also trying to do more complex games with live service and multiplayer? Single player games are generally easier to make and polish, in my opinion. I mean, you never know. I mean, it's possible. Like live service games and multiplayer games can be a little bit trickier. They're typically not reviewed as highly as single-player experiences, right? When you look at Last of Us in 94, or you look at God of War Ragnarok, or you look how high, you know, like something like Horizon Forbidden West is, or Spider-Man, multiplayer games typically don't reach those levels. So, like, PlayStation fans are accustomed to a certain level of quality, a certain level of, here's what the game scored on Metacritic, and a certain level of success for most of their games. Live service games and multiplayer games are a different breed. Sometimes they can review well, but then other times they get trashed. You know, some aren't successful, some are. So you're in this transition period where Sony's still going to make, you know, their single player quote unquote bangers, but you're going to be putting out these live service games that are probably going to be doing a whole bunch of different things. Sony's going to throw a whole bunch of different stuff at the wall to see what sticks. Some of it is probably not going to work. Some of it's probably just going to straight up fail. And some of it probably won't review well. It'll probably be bad. You know, like we already saw them release something like Destruction All-Stars that was, you know, people turned their back on after a couple hours. And, you know, that's a risk you have to take, apparently. At least they're taking that risk. And you can talk about, like, one of my things with this showcase, one of the other disappointments, although it's always going to be a disappointment, is Microsoft always has some of their live services during the show. So you see Elder Scrolls Online again, and you see Fallout 76 again, and you see Microsoft Flight Sim again, and you see another trailer for Sea of Thieves. And as someone who doesn't care about any of that stuff, it's basically just an empty void. It's empty space. I'm just zoning out because I don't care. At least when you show me a new game, I'm going to be interested. Like when you show me,
They showed you a new flight simulator.
Yeah, and that's not interesting.
That was a new.
I know
simulator.
it was new, but it's not interesting because it's just flight.
You don't
sim.
want to be a
no
firefighter.
I mean, maybe I'll go
cool as
search and
shit.
rescue. I'll pick people up and then drop them. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Wow.
I'm not interested.
That's mean.
I'm not interested in any of those live service games. So to me, that's like if each one was 2 minutes, that's 9 minutes that I think could have gone to other announcements. And that's a personal thing. I understand from the business reasons, right, why they show up and things like that. But yeah, like Sony's going to be doing the same thing. Like, oh, here's a live service game, and we're going to continually update it, and we're going to have to talk about it and show it. And a lot of PlayStation fans don't want that, just like how a lot of Xbox fans are like, really, Elder Scrolls again? It's just something to think about. And but moving on from that, we have the Andrew says, oh, well, I lost it because YouTube updated. Let's see. I just saw it. Jeez, where'd it go? I'll find it. Fly Guy says Starfield might get docked a bit for not being on PlayStation. I don't think so. I don't really think that's really a thing. MK says we want Turkish for Starfield. Jez, please help us. Jez is going to do the best he can to get that for you guys. Xdon the Otaku,
Yep.
As a huge Nintendo fan, this is the first time I thought that another game may have a chance of winning. A slim chance, but a chance all the same. If they nail it, it definitely could. Justin Duell with big super chat without a message, thank you. Crunch, what is your best single advice for future showcases? I would mandate real gameplay for every second showing of a game. No more Fable CGI and Hellblade 2 mocap. But that's the thing. That wasn't CGI for Fable, right, Jez?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of surprised me too. I thought it was CGI, but apparently it's in engine, and those glimpses of spell throwing and combat were actual gameplay snippets.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was completely in engine. It wasn't CGI, which is pretty incredible, right? That's like the full. That's the Forza Tech engine, or did they move to Unreal? I can't remember.
No, it's Forza Tech.
That's kind of insane. No,
I mean, yeah, when you think about it,
that's a racing game engine that had no previous sort of system for combat or stats or anything like that. That's kind of jaw dropping. I think it's jaw dropping that a lot of people thought it was CGI, including me. So yeah. What more to say about that? It was on a Series X. The developer.
I mean, the developer came out
said
and said we captured on Series X. It said in game where South of Midnight said an engine. I think people look at that and they think it's too good. Granted, I think what the problem is people want to see what would be like the camera behind
Emotion.
the character's back looks like the character is actually being controlled. Even though it was gameplay and there was snippets of it, there wasn't like the HUD, right? It was more cinematic cuts. So people look at that and they say, that's just CG, bro. That's not real. But that is real. That's what the game's going to look like and potentially play like. It's just shown off in a way where it's like I said, more cinematic. But I mean, I know developers like, no, that's captured on Series X. It's that's gameplay. And I know for a lot of people that may be, difficult to grasp because it's not, like Alan Wake 2's gameplay thing where I had the HUD or whatever. But, Playground Games or Wizard, Forza Horizon 5 is one of the best looking games out there. And that was a cross-gen title. And now this is strictly going to be one that's probably coming out in 2025. And, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it looks incredible. Andrew says, with Embracer's issues, MS should be circling. Yeah, the Embracer problem. I know I saw your tweets earlier about that, Jez. Like Embracer. Hopefully, Microsoft can get the ABK thing done quickly and then they can go in there and be like, about Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal. Perchance we could get them from you, because I have a feeling. Did Embracer announce what studios were shut down and how many jobs they were cutting?
No,
not yet.
They're keeping that kind of quiet, but Crystal Dynamics came out with a statement saying that they're completely unaffected.
Yeah.
So I'd be guessing like Crystal Dynamics has a big contract with Microsoft, so that's probably not an issue.
And
for
same
them,
thing with
but...
Eidos, right? Like they got
Eidos too. So it's probably going to be some of these like studios that never made any sense. You know, and it's people losing their jobs always sucks. But I was always confused about Embracer Group. They bought so many damn studios that had never made any money and had never proven themselves, and they paid a lot of money for some of these studios, and it was kind of like, what is their plan here? You know, and I was always wondering, are they just buying everything, and then are they going to wholesale to like a national sovereign pension fund or something? Is this some kind of like some kind of crazy, financial play, and that it's not about gaming at all? But this just proves that they're just terrible at business. They had no plan.
Well, that deal...
There is no plan. There was never a plan.
I think that deal falling through probably hurt a ton, right? That $2 billion deal.
Dude,
right?
It didn't fall through because the deal didn't exist.
Oh, well, that's true.
The dude was like, we had a verbal agreement. You don't do you find that? I mean, dude, I'm not a businessman, right? But I wouldn't plan my financial year on the basis of a handshake. What the hell? That's just insane. That's just insanity, And clearly investors agree with me because their share price has crumbled in recent weeks. But I'm sure as hell, if they manage to get this ABK deal over the line, they're gonna be right picking up the phone and be like, let us buy Crystal and Eidos, please.
I would imagine maybe Amazon might be like, well, we might need Crystal Dynamics. They're making Tomb Raider for us. So...
Yeah, that's scary too. Like, Amazon with Crystal Dynamics would be such a waste. But
so get the ABK deal done. Get it done.
Yeah, ABK has to come first. Like, ABK is like huge, and it is what it is. But
yeah. I like how it's like, oh, we're going to talk about the showcase, but we talk about everything because we just can't help ourselves. We just
yeah.
Barrico says, first time catching your show live and listen to you guys every week on the podcast. I only wish that Fable trailer had started with the scale joke. Oh God, Scalebound, could you imagine? Randy says, Rand, how dare you talk that way about Diablo? I mean, it's the truth.
He's not wrong.
X down the Otaku. Jez, why did you lie about the title of Belfry? #sarcasm.
Yeah, I mean, it says Wandering Tower in the document. Either like it was a working title, or they changed the title, or maybe they thought we can't get the trademark.
Maybe you leaking the title made them change it to something else.
I doubt that, but it's I think it's a cool title, Towerborn. It's a really cool
Towerborn,
title.
AR
it looks really good too. It looks like it's gonna fill that Castle Crashers void in my life.
Yeah. And coming next year, AR Not Skywalker. For the record, 343 just via Twitter, Season 4 stream this week. Okay. The Dry Wolf says, so happy to see some stealth in Starfield. Dead Planet says, Booty mentioned more yearly beats to show off more stuff. So what game could show up when? Something new at the TGAs or another look at Hellblade or Avowed? I mean, they talked about, like, yeah, we still got, Tokyo Game Show and Gamescom and the Game Awards. And then they even sort of said maybe an event next year. Jez, what do you think about maybe they do another developer direct early next year, huh? Maybe
I think
this is Hellblade Combat now because the game, maybe they can date it then or whatever, right? Stuff like that. A deeper look at some of these games.
I do hope they keep that sort of direct, stuff. The format. I thought I need to watch it again properly because I was writing during it, so I just sort of like kept writing, then looking up, and kept writing, looking up. But the Starfield Direct, I thought was an amazing format, and and I hope they do it for other games as well. I think like Hellblade Direct would be a really good way to sort of showcase its systems, what you can do. You know, if it is just walking simulator, or if it actually has like
Shut up, Jez. Don't
some
you
more,
dare they base the name of Hellblade like that.
Yes. Okay. But if it like has some more complexity to it, I'd really love to see that, because obviously they've nailed the cinematics, they've nailed the tone, the music, the visuals, the acting. It looks like, even if it is a walking simulator, it's going to be an amazing experience. It's going to be a truly amazing experience, memorable, and the kind of thing that will stay with you. You play that game with headphones, like Hellblade 1, it stays with you. Hellblade 1 is haunting, and like, even though like I troll Rand and talk about walking simulators and stuff like that, the game is haunting. Like it sticks with you. So like, it still would have value, but I just as a gamer, I want more game to my game,
Right. No, I know what you mean. Brendan says he doesn't want a Halo reboot, but they definitely need to do some sort of restart. And no live service BS, deliver a full Halo at launch.
Wasn't Halo 5 was something of a restart, and then Halo Infinite was something of a restart, and now we've got like the whole Guardian storyline was pretty much thrown out the window. And I'm sorry, I don't care if they explain it in a book. I ain't reading no fucking book,
bro.
Okay, if it ain't in the game, it doesn't exist to me. It's dead. And 90% of people feel the same way about 90% of Halo players don't read the books. Okay, so the Guardian storyline was thrown out the window, and now we've got this other storyline in Halo Infinite, which has also been thrown out the window. Like, all the stuff that sort of was coalescing in Halo Infinite, I can't even remember, but those like weird bug people, whatever they were called, I can't even remember what they're called now. This is how like little investment I have in Halo story, because they keep throwing it out the window. I thought the Guardian stuff and Cortana going evil and whatever, I thought that was really cool, but then the Halo community was like, oh no, my waifu's mean, this is bad. So then they retreated from that, and now we've got a mess of a story that just makes no sense. We've got two overlapping stories that are half finished, and they showed like what happened at the end of Halo 5 in some sort of off-screen dialogue. That's just dumb as hell. So I don't know where you come back from. I don't know how you fix that. I don't know how you fix that without like another restart. Is it just going to be like this in perpetuity, where we get to the end of the game and they're like, stay tuned for more, and then we never get the more. We never find out. We never get the resolution. Like I don't know. It really frustrates me. It frustrates me, man. Because they did this in Quantum Break as well. No real resolution at the end of Quantum Break, and I hate that so much. It's like a pet peeve of mine. Yeah, Beth's just screwed.
Yeah, apparently
in the void forever.
She showed up in Control, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Talking a lot of Halo talk for the showcase. It wasn't there. G says, Jez, you mentioned Gear 6 as a collection coming. That's from our buddy, the Special Nick, over at Xbox era.
Lots of people keep asking me about this Gears collection. I have never seen a shred of evidence that the Gears collection exists. I've only heard that it doesn't exist, and that was a while ago. That was around the first time that Nick talked about it. I was told that it doesn't exist, and I can't remember what year that was. When was that around? Was that 2020 maybe?
That was last year, I think, sometime.
Was it really that recently?
Yes, I think so.
Well, I heard it didn't exist, but I also think that it makes sense maybe to do a Gears collection eventually. I think like having a collection that remasters Gears 1, 2, and 3 and Judgment maybe even, and has like a sort of unified multiplayer with all the maps. I think that would make a lot of money. But that's probably more complicated than you'd think to deliver that, because yeah, it's all on the Unreal Engine, but there's still like going to be like different tools, different things. in each separate game that would need to be bridged together. It's probably less complicated than the Master Chief Collection, but it's still not a trivial undertaking. And from what I've heard, they are all in on Gears 6 and bringing Gears 6 to the next level. So if someone is making a Gears collection, it's probably not the Coalition.
Oh, it wouldn't be them.
It
would be somebody else. It wouldn't be the Coalition making. It would definitely be another team somewhere, a different team. It would just be farmed out. There's no way they'd be working on it.
Yeah, but then it's like, who would do it? Splash Damage or something?
I mean,
but
I don't know.
Splash Damage has been acquired.
Somebody
so
else.
Now it's like,
whoever, we'll just have to wait and see. Face says, did you try out the Final Fantasy 16 demo, Rand? No, I don't really do demos, and my buddy's buying that game, so I'm gonna play it. I don't need to spring any money for it, so I'll be playing Final Fantasy 16 when it comes out. But no, I didn't try out the demo. Don says, I'm starting the hashtag not my Fable movement because the last thing I want from Fable is a cinematic gameplay experience. I'm unsold until I see more. See, I mean, yeah, I would like to see more actual gameplay, but I'm sold. Like that looked great. But it's a while from release still. L. Paul says, so Jez, you're saying Embracer is a crooked, like a shell company? I remember a bet a few months ago. Do you know what he's talking about? Did you bet him or something, Jez?
I can't remember, but
Jez doesn't remember. Jez totally forgot we were going to do a show today when we had talked about it like every week the last 2 weeks. His memory's not so good sometimes.
I think it's just there's just so much stuff in it. I need to keep notes or something.
You do.
I need to get like a sticky note on my. I need to get sticky notes.
Yeah.
Shit. I need to buy some sticky notes.
We have Thanaros. What projects you guys previously mentioned, like Project Dragon, didn't show this year? I mean, there was Project Shaolin, Project Dragon. I don't know some of the other ones. I forget them all, but who knows if they're still with Xbox or what have you? But I mean, Project Belfry showed up, and Project Typhoon was contraband, so some of those are real, clearly. Project Cobalt, which was Cobalt was Clockwork Revolution, right?
Yeah, Cobalt's Clockwork Revolution, yeah.
But I'm sure there's still more. Ace Out Gaming, will Starfield ever get a 60 FPS mode on Series X? Probably not, I would imagine.
No, I think Starfield is 30 FPS this whole gen.
Yeah, probably. So Jess, how did you feel when they started off the show with Fable? What was your reaction where it was like, we're beginning this show with the game that we teased on social media, and then seeing what it looked like and the reactions to it? Because not only are people like, it's not gameplay, but did you see people talk about like, oh, another game with an ugly woman type stuff? You know what I mean?
I didn't see any.
You didn't see any of that stuff? Yeah.
That's just bullshit. But I was just so hyped to hear Richard Ayoade's voice. Like, I don't know. Like, apparently he's getting quite famous in America as well, but he's a national treasure in Britain.
Yeah,
because he's a comedian. He does all the panel shows, the comedy panel shows. But he's most famous in the UK probably for the IT Crowd, which is one of the best sitcoms ever made, in my opinion, about some hapless IT technicians in some really depressing corporate job. Absolutely hilarious. He is perfect for Fable, and I think like setting the tone with Richard was just genius, absolutely genius. Because it was one of the things that Fable always did traditionally was bring in some fairly big name British actors, and to sort of deliver that sort of dry British sarcasm or whatever you call it. And I'm on the record of saying that I generally don't like comedy in games because it's usually really poorly executed.
Most of the time.
Like, yeah, like I know Borderlands is very popular, but all the humor in Borderlands just makes me cringe. It's like not my kind of humor.
Well, Borderlands 3 humor was bad, but like Borderlands 2 was good, and I felt a lot of the humor in Hi-Fi Rush was really good. Some of it didn't land.
Yeah.
And
to be fair, I haven't played Borderlands 2. To be fair, but Borderlands 1 put me off the whole franchise.
Oh, okay. And High on Life.
Just some of the clips I've seen.
But High on Life
was all right.
The humor is. It's like, hey, like Rick and Morty, you might like this. Some people hate it. Yeah, so humor is a very subjective thing.
Yeah,
right?
it's a subjective thing. But I think like for me at least, this felt like it was really, really high quality.
No, it
felt like
definitely.
it was really high quality.
Yeah, I mean,
s-
to me, it felt like
yeah.
you could see the budget. Like, there's talks that this is like one of Xbox Game Studios' biggest projects, essentially, like on the scale of a Halo. And when I was even thinking about it, like, this almost seems like this could be just like a singular mission in the game, right? You know, like Fable, like Jack and the Beanstalk. Maybe you do some of those sort of things where you go and do other sort of fables within Fable. And one is obviously, you know, Jack and the Beanstalk with the giant. And this, you know, the dude there may only be like the boss of a level of something, right? And then you move on to something else. I don't know. Like, I was blown away by Fable.
It looks amazing.
And then you get the looks at the Balverine and stuff. Like, the shots in the forest. Oh, dude, like, you know, the only like real issue is like what year, because Microsoft gave us dates for at least 3 games they thought were coming next year.
It's got to be 25.
So you're probably looking at 2025 at the earliest. And that's why this is why this showcase is proof that the 12-month format last year was a bad idea. And I will die on this hill, because when you look at why people enjoyed this showcase, it's because you finally got a look at what Fable is. Compulsion was able to reveal their game. NXI was able to reveal their game, which don't all have dates. So there's a lot of excitement just around these 3 games. But if you had stuck to the 12-month format, they wouldn't have been there. And hell, if you stuck to the 12-month format, maybe Towerborn doesn't show up. Maybe Avowed's not even there. Because who knows if Avowed would have, you know, been before June of next year. So that's why I'm of the opinion the 12 months thing is just never do that again. I understand why you wanted to do it this time, but look at the excitement that people have around the games that you showed that were further out. It just proves that keeping it structured to just the next 12 months is a bad idea, in my opinion. Because now people are looking and be like, oh my God, Fable, Clockwork Revolution, even thinking in your heads of like the other games that are coming and stuff. Like, yeah, that's the death nail, you know, the final nail in the coffin for 12 months. Never even do it again.
Yeah, there's just no reason to do it. Like, I suppose like it was a situation of coming out of COVID and maybe not having the bandwidth to make footage for games that were further out, maybe. But it feels like they are able to create slices for games that are further out. So I think if you're able to do that, you should. And because you also sort of put yourself in a trap, because if the games don't come out in 12 months, then you look like you've lied.
Exactly.
Kind of.
You screwed yourself.
So
right?
You screwed yourself. So I don't think we'll see 12 months ever again, unless there's another pandemic.
Yeah, especially
looking forward to COVID 20.
No.
COVID 20, baby.
No.
That's 2024 exclusive. COVID 20.
Yeah, especially with all the games they're
what?
working on and how further they are. Like, you don't need... I get why they did it last year, but that's what made this year... It's like, oh, finally, we didn't see how Redfall. There's no Minecraft Legends. There's none of a lot of these games that we've been seeing the last 2 years. Everything was was new and brand new looks at stuff, and it was like, yes, this is so refreshing. Xdon, the Otaku, Final Fantasy 16 demo was trash. 2 hours of cutscenes, the 20 minutes of gameplay, with QTEs and a one-button boss battle, and it's everything I hate about modern gaming. The reviews...
Damn. I didn't see the Final Fantasy. Like, I've only seen clips from Final Fantasy 16, and it looks very flashy and cool, but yeah, I'm a fan of... I've got nostalgia for my turn-based Final Fantasy.
Reviewers have been playing Final Fantasy 16 for a bit now.
Right.
I'm sure there'll be...
When's it coming out?
The 22nd. I'm sure there'll be some reviews that probably don't like it, and I'm sure there'll be reviews that this is the greatest thing ever. Like, I'm expecting maybe like 85 on a Metacritic scale for that game. Michael says, just wanted to give my brother Nathan a birthday shout out on his birthday today. Turns 39 years old. Shout out, Nathan. Happy birthday, awesome. Man. But nobody says Clockwork Revolution was the game of the show for him. And then after Fable, Jez, we finally got a look. I'm interested because we haven't really talked about this, and you haven't mentioned it to me. But South of Midnight from Compulsion showed up.
Yeah.
Remember, because you were a little when we did our predictions, we were like, I think Compulsion is going to show up because they hired a community manager. You said, maybe I revealed the game or leaked the game too early. It was there. What did you think about the art style they were going for and everything with that game?
I thought it looked absolutely stunning.
Yeah,
and I think what we got from South of Midnight was a glimpse into why Microsoft bought Compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the mood they can set,
the vibes,
like
right?
The vibes. Like, so We're Happy Few was a mess of a game, but the reveal trailer for We're Happy Few is still really memorable, because of the atmosphere and the vibes they created with it. And We're Happy Few as a game as well is also like, it delivers big on that uniqueness. It just sort of like, the game underneath it wasn't great. So again, we're sort of in that situation where, yes, it looks amazing, and it almost has like I don't know how to describe it. It's like a Nightmare Before Christmas vibe, almost stop motion, almost.
Yeah, like stop motion. Yeah. I've never seen a game like that before, right?
So yeah.
Hopefully the game looks like that. I really wish the game keeps that aesthetic style, because that's the one thing I'll say about Compulsion, is that their art style is top notch. Like you look at like We Happy Few and stuff. You're like, all right. So watching this trailer, yeah, it's all vibes. We know it's a third-person action adventure, as by the Xbox Newswire, talking about like Southern Gothic and stuff like that, and that really does come across in the trailer. So now it's like, I wasn't really interested in what Compulsion was doing because I didn't care for We Happy Few or Contrast, but now they have my attention. And the only thing is like, all right, now with Fable, you sort of get a sense of what it could be. With South of Midnight, I still don't have any idea what it is, right? Like, how does
there are some hints in the trailer?
Sure,
if you really look, like she has a bow and arrow,
right? Yeah,
which suggests stealth gameplay. Maybe.
Good,
because
I enjoy that.
Bows don't make noise. So I think if you're gonna have a bow and arrow in the game, it's probably because there's like a Tomb Raider-esque sort of light stealth possibly in it. There are sort of hints you can infer from the trailer, possibly, but it's also, again, you don't want to get too carried away with guesswork in case it's completely wrong, and you set yourself up for a disappointment. But I do think it was a very good first showing for the game.
I think
so, very good reveal trailer, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I really want to see what that game actually is, but I am digging the vibes. If it looks like that style of stop motion animation, claymation sort of stuff, I mean, Southern Gothic, like that really could be something interesting. Now, no year dated, so maybe it's a little bit further away. I was hoping it was next year. Maybe that's
25.
Maybe that's 25. But either way, it's another game that got people really excited to see what was going on, and I'm sure the people at Compulsion were really happy to reveal it. Did you see some of the reactions of Fable, of people who worked on the game, like filming their reactions to it? Did you see some of that content?
No, I didn't.
There's this one of this guy like drinking wine, watching the show, and kind of like tearing up because it's something he like worked on and stuff. But I love seeing content like that, of like,
that's awesome.
Like the devs being like super super happy and proud of what they've done. Because a lot of this, can be jaded and cynical, and
there's so much negativity,
and there could be a lot of negativity. Yeah.
My block button's working overtime since the show, man.
You know how many people complain to me that you block a lot of people? Seriously? Well, come to my DMs and be like, Jez blocked me, and I'm like, what do you want me to do about it? It's just Twitter. People be like, I disagreed with him about something and he blocked me. Well, it's Twitter. Who gives a shit? You block who you want. Who cares?
People think like I owe them a platform for free speech. Like, there was a dude complaining that I blocked him for disagreeing with him, but the guy didn't follow me. he quote tweeted me to his followers, and he was a YouTuber, so he only quote tweeted me to try and get clout with his audience. I don't like being used that way. If you want to discuss something, reply to me, and actually like discuss it instead of throw out some bad faith takes about bullshit and console wars. Otherwise, I'm just going to block you because I just don't have time. And I don't want my followers to see your bullshit either. So I'd rather you just didn't have access to my stuff. So like that's the sort of mentality that I have with blocking, generally speaking. Sometimes I get it wrong. Sometimes like I block people unfairly because I've read the tone that they were going for or something. And maybe some people don't have English as their first language, maybe, and like it comes across differently. And in those situations, like sometimes they get on a DM and explain, and then I unblock them, But I just don't have time for it, man. I just really don't.
Jez doesn't got time.
I'm on Twitter for work.
Yeah, Jez doesn't got time for that.
I'm not here to be a free speech platform for the idiots, man. I'm just not.
I know you didn't see it, but then they had Star Wars Outlaws. I thought
I didn't see this.
They had the gameplay demo at the Ubisoft Forward. It's very, very positive. Looks cool. Looks really cool.
I didn't see the gameplay because I was writing an article at the time, but I saw the reactions on Twitter and people were really, really excited for it. Which is not. It's nice to see a Ubisoft game generating that kind of excitement again.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've seen the gameplay from the new Prince of Persia, but oh my lord, I don't know why people were upset. That game looks incredible. The Prince of Persia.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
From the team that did Rayman Legends. Oh, it's gonna be so good, dude.
I played the original Prince of Persia on my PC. And it was like kind of like that, side-scrolling, platforming and stuff. So I was like, "Wow, that looks amazing!" Like I felt like my inner child gets some nostalgia juice out of that. But yeah, I think it kind of reminds me of Diablo Immortal in a way. Like there's a backlash to it because people want the 3D. They want to look at the 3D version, right?
Yeah.
Because they're doing a remake of Sands of Time, right? If I remember correctly,
they are. But then that's going through a lot of problems. But yeah,
okay. So I think people want to see that, and they feel like they're sort of like getting a consolation prize. So like when Diablo Immortal was announced, I feel like if they'd announced Diablo Immortal after they'd announced Diablo 4, it probably wouldn't have got the initial hate that it got. It still deserves hate because it's a pay-to-win hellscape. But I'm just saying, like, the way it became a meme and, like, do you guys have phones kind of thing, If they'd announced it after Diablo 4, I don't think it would have been such a crazy backlash. And I kind of feel the same way about this. I think if, like, they'd shown off, like, a new trailer for like, Sands of Time or whatever, or just given an update on it or whatever, I don't think it would have got the same amount of backlash. But I think it looks really cool. Long story short.
Yeah, I mean, you need to watch the gameplay thing too. And I was surprised because typically Microsoft doesn't have something like this at their show. They usually keep it to smaller things. So to see like Star Wars, right, big AAA experience, might be have the marketing for. I was like, all right, like this is. You start out the show and it's Fable, South of Midnight, two games that people have been looking forward to, or at least seeing what they are. And then you start with the Star Wars game. It started out strong. And then it went to maybe the best indie game at the show, 33 Immortals with 33-player co-op from the people that did
really cool.
And I think they showed more gameplay during the extended showcase today, which I need to check out. But talk about a game making an impact on like a minute-long trailer, like the art style reminiscent of Hades, and then the bomb of like 33-player co-op. Like what game does that, right?
Yeah. I'm curious how they landed on 33 specifically. Right? Like, why not 30?
Why not 35? Yeah. Why not? Why not 22? Why 33?
But it looks fantastic. It looks really chaotic. It looks really, really fun. Really, really cool. So I'm all about that. They showed some really high quality indies in the showcase,
which is they need that for Game Pass, and that's kind of like. You talk about the differentiator between them and PlayStation to a certain extent. Outside of the first party, it's usually the games that they show here are going to be in Game Pass day one, where that's not the case with PlayStation. So I feel like the showcases is also like a better selling point for Xbox, because it's like not only do you have all these first party titles, whether they're brand new ones or it's Starfield or it's live service stuff, but these high quality indies you can still get with our service for cheap. Like, I think that really speaks well to what Xbox is trying to accomplish. Payday 3, I don't really care about. That's coming out in September. September's a big month for Game Pass, Jez. You got Starfield on the 6th. You have Lies of P on the 16th, I believe. You got Party Animals on the 20th. And Payday 3 on the 21st. All feeling like different niches, really right? Like, Starfield's obviously a league of its own. But Lies of P looks pretty good, and people seem to enjoy the demo, right? That's Soulsborne-esque. Party Animals is kind of that family, human fall flat, a battle type game. And Payday 3 is your 4-player co-op shooter. So, that looks, and then not soon after that you have Forza Motorsport. So they're tuning in overtime there. Then you had there's a lot of Japanese presence here, Jez, right? Even though some of it
there was strong support from Japan at this show.
Right. You had Persona 3 Reloaded, you had Persona 5 Tactica, right? Which, are you going to be able to finish Persona 5 by the end of the year? You're not going to get caught up in the Persona 5 Tactica, which is coming in November. Both those games day one on Game Pass as well.
Bro. Like, I literally heard your voice in my head this week because I took my Asus ROG Ally.
And really quickly. How much do you love the Asus?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It is incredible. I love it. And I was wrong. And I'm literally
wrong.
I was wrong.
You have a Steam Deck too, right?
Yeah, I got a Steam Deck.
Is it better than the Steam Deck?
It's way better than the Steam
Deck.
It's orders of magnitude better than the Steam Deck. For most things. Steam Deck does battery life better.
Better?
Definitely.
Does it better?
Better. Yeah, it does better. It does battery life better. But the extra power you get on the Asus is just like, it makes for such a more versatile experience. And most of the times you can find a power outlet if you do want to go turbo mode, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm going to write that up next week. But the point is, I was playing my Asus ROG Ally on the flight to LA and the flight back from LA. And I was trying to play Diablo on it, but the in-flight Wi-Fi was just not good enough. So the games I had installed on my Asus was Hollow Knight, Persona, Ruiner, Prodeus, and a bunch of other games, right? And I was like, man, I could hear your voice in my head, because I was looking at Persona. I was thinking Rand will be telling me to play Persona right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, for some reason, just really wanted to play Hollow Knight. So like this past week, I've played like maybe 15 hours of Hollow Knight on the plane. I am like a full-blown Hollow Knight
dude. It's amazing.
Now.
I remember I told you about that game when I played it. I loved it. Dude, I cannot wait for Silksong. Oh my god, that game's. Oh, you need to finish Hollow Knight before Silksong comes out.
Yeah,
you need to finish Persona 5 before the end of the year, right? And then you still got Persona 3 remake and this Tactica game, and also they surprised everybody by announcing Metaphor Refantazo, a new IP from them. Atlas in here huge, which is something nobody would really believed a couple years ago. But not only that, Capcom showed off a new IP, Path of the Goddess. Like, bro, when that showed up and the Capcom logo,
fantastic.
I was sitting there, I was like, dude, is this Amnesia? But it ended up being a new IP, which is just as cool. And I was like, all right, and it's Game Pass as well, Capcom doing that. I'm like, that's super interesting. Like a Dragon, Yakuza shows up with, Yakuza. Like, the Japanese presence was strong here. And you know what, Jez? I thought it was done a lot better than last year. You want to know why?
Why is that?
Because last year, they did a segment where it was like, all right, guys, Phil here. Guess what? We're going to talk about Japanese games and how they're important to us. And here's Team Ninja's game. Here's the 3 Persona games. Here's the Kojima stuff. Right? They put them on a pedestal. And they sort of had to because of people demanding it. Because Japanese games we're skipping the platform because of decisions made during the Xbox One era and things like that. But I think they did it better this year because they were just dropped and there's like, okay, here's Persona 3 Reloaded. And then a few games later, oh, here's this. And a few games later, it made it feel like it was just a regular part of the Xbox game library. Like there was no importance put onto it because Phil introduced it last year. Now it just sort of seemed like, oh, this is just common. Here's just these Japanese games. It's like they're just like any other regular game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. At least that's kind of my takeaway from that.
No, I completely agree. Like I do think like they put it on a bit of a pedestal, but maybe they needed to do that because
sure.
they their support from out of Japan has been historically a little bit iffy,
True.
But clearly they've moved past that now because the fact that Capcom would announce like bring a new IP on stage at the Xbox show, which just looked fantastic. Like Capcom is on such a roll right now.
They are, man.
They're like they are delivering like the nostalgic classic experiences that people want with Street Fighter. They're delivering like they're reviving long dormant franchises like Dragon's Dogma, which just looks incredible. And they're also doing like high art creative stuff. Like this new IP, which I believe is someone in chat mentioned exactly what it's called. I can't find it now. It's Kunitsugami. It's called.
Mm-hmm.
So like, just what the hell? That's like it's so creative. And then they've been killing it with Resident Evil. What I don't know what the hell has happened to Capcom, but they've had like an absolute transformation.
It's good to see. It's great to see.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Although their showcase was awful.
Yeah,
well,
people said that.
It just kind of goes to show you not everybody needs to do a showcase. And Capcom, you didn't need to do one, but either way, like it was really good. We talked a little bit about Avowed. I was happy to see it here. I'm happy that it's coming in 2024. I think it's late 2024, and I still think there's room for improvements, right? Because when we talk about Starfield, Jez, I was shocked to see how much Starfield improved from last year to this year. It looked significantly better, and the gunplay looked. It was like night and day difference between how much like the gunplay before was like, it's kind of awkward-ish, but this time it was like, did it help with this or something? Because this gunplay looks tight, right? So to me, I'm watching the Avowed thing, and I'm like,
cool physics too.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that delay was obviously clearly worth it, and even in like Matt Booty and Phil said in the Giant Bomb stuff, like there was even an earlier date. Before the acquisition or whatever, or when they first acquired them, like Starfield was supposed to come up before 11/11/22. Like it was supposed to come even earlier, which sort of makes sense considering the type of problem state Bethesda was in, where they were selling games to PlayStation and even considering selling Starfield to the point where it's like they probably needed the revenue because their games weren't selling well. And Xbox comes in and buys them and is like, "Are you sure you want to release this, Todd?" And Todd's like, "No. We'll release it 11/11." And then they get to that and it's like, you sure you want to release this? And like, no, we can delay it again, right? But it's just like I always said, Xbox will get all the blame when a game's bad, like with Redfall. And if Starfield's as good as it looks, like even now, people are like, Xbox can't take credit for that. That looks too good. So it's playing out exactly like I said it would, even though they've said like, this would be like the most bug-free version of a Bethesda game ever because of all the delays. And I think it's only because of the acquisition. They may be hands-off, or at least here's the ATG team to make the game shine, to look good, to play good. But it sort of feels like if Bethesda wasn't acquired, this game would have been out sometime early 2022, and who knows what it would have looked like, what it would have played like, or the problems it would have had, but because of
they would have Fallout 76 it?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of get the sense, because look what it looked like last year and look what it looked like this year. Like, the difference is palpable of like, hey, we're spending all this time polishing it to make it the best game it could be. And I think that only happens because you're under a platform now. Like, it's like, okay, take your time, make it as good as it was, or as good as it can be, right? And if it does nail everything and it reviews highly, people will say, "Oh, Xbox had no, absolutely not." But then they'll blame it all on Redfall on Xbox, which like whatever. But
that's the criticism now that you see is like, oh, Microsoft acquires its good games, and it's like, man, what company hasn't acquired something? You know, a AAA publisher. What AAA publisher hasn't acquired some of its good games? You know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is literally what, you know, Xbox was criticized for by Sony fans and by Xbox fans, and they were saying you should deliver more exclusive content for us. Xbox delivered that. You should deliver more Japanese games for us. Xbox is delivering that. Yeah, Square Enix is a holdout. And Phil did mention on one of the interviews that he's, you know, preparing to pick up the phone again with regards to Square Enix. But it's also like, man, there's some point you have to give them credit. You know, what is that point where, you know, even the biggest fanboys and haters can give them credit? Because at some point it just looks like you're arguing in bad faith. You know, there's been plenty of things that Xbox is worthy of criticism for over the last few years, but we get into a point now where they've addressed all the top criticisms. You know, a lot of them. You know, yeah, there's still issues with localization, the PC Game Pass app, and you know, so some of the things like that, which, you know, we're still hammering them for. But on the sort of on when it comes to game delivery, they've started to prove that, you know, yeah, Redfall was a bump, sure, and that kind of gave us the impression that, oh god, they still don't get it. But this showcase really shows that actually they do get it, and actually they are delivering. So when do you give them credit, Rand? What's it going to take? What's it going to take?
I don't know.
I think Greg Miller said, he said, if that wasn't an A showcase for you, what the hell do you want them to do? You know,
100%.
What more can they possibly do? You know,
some people, nothing will ever be enough, right? And I also think like this is also a direct result of making your voices heard. Like, people bitched about Japanese support so much that Xbox went out and got it, and now you get games like Persona and stuff not only coming to the platform but day one in Game Pass. And like Yakuza, another franchise I'd never thought would happen, is now on Xbox as day one along with the PlayStation stuff, right? And
I never thought Persona would happen.
Yeah, you know, this is a direct result. The direct result of basically people, you know, complaining on Twitter or what have you. It's like sometimes, and they always do. They say they're always listening, and they are. So it's like you need to make your voices heard about things. You just can't stay quiet. Like, closed mouths don't get fed, right? So you got to speak up. Speed Rusher says, would love to see you two do live video for the first 30 minutes of every stream and then switch to gameplay. Show us your handsome, nerdy mugs, gents. Jez, please don't block me on Twitter for this. I mean, that's something.
Man,
like,
one of the worst things about like LA was like people like coming up to me and asking for selfies, right? And like I love that. I love so much that people like it's an honor and it's humbling that people would want to do that. But every time I see the selfie, it's just I'm looking at myself thinking, God damn, I need to lose more weight. Oh God, like I'm a good 70 pounds down from my max weight, which is bad, right? Considering like I'm still 350 pounds, and I lost 20 pounds for E3 to make sure I could fit in the bloody seats on the plane. But like,
and you said
some people just don't care about that stuff. But for some reason,
you flew and you didn't have anybody in your row, huh? Like you got to a row to yourself or whatever.
And I didn't need a belt extender either.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's the little things and little things.
The little things, right?
Wolf says, Rand Jez, you guys are premium. Been listening for a year, but this is my first time live and membership. Thanks, guys, for the quality content. Man, thank you.
Yeah, you're awesome.
Love you guys for being here. I think we have had over 2,000 viewers on a surprise stream that basically we didn't even really promote. It was just like, let's do it today. Let's talk about this. Let's give him Random Jez, and then we can celebrate even more later on in the week. So you guys are amazing. Thank you for being here. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. And so the Avowed thing, obviously we talked a little bit earlier about the reaction to it. I don't think the game's coming out for another year, so I do think, it will improve, just like Starfield improved, which is why I brought that up, right? Which was the reason I was like, hey, look at this. But then, Sea of Thieves, Legend of Monkey Island, Microsoft Flight Sim with Dune. I will say this,
dude. I'm sorry. Flight Sim got me hyped.
Whatever, dude. I mean, I will admit it is a well put together trailer. It looked really good.
Oh, come on.
No, it was.
Man,
look,
it's one of the things that I didn't really like about flight simulators was that there's like the career mode is kind of like you fly around and it's nice and it's sort of a meditative experience, but there's nothing to like. You can't at least at launch, and there are some progression systems, but I like in Farming Simulator, there's like this whole career mode where you can like specialize in different types of farming, and that's if you like those kind of games, that's what I like. So seeing that Flight Simulator 2024 has like a full-blown career mode where you can be like a firefighter or like an aerial construction dude and all that kind of stuff, that is exactly what Flight Simulator fans want, Rand. Like
Fair enough.
I was in the theater,
but do they want
the reactions to this?
But let me ask you this: do they want it to be a new game? Because that's what it is.
Yeah, I suppose that's the kicker, right?
Because they said 10 years of support for Microsoft Flight Sim. It's 4 years, and you're getting a brand new game. I did see some people upset by that.
That was a bit. I was like, that should be a DLC, really, but.
I thought the game looked better. I'm like, that looks better than they've shown it before. And now I guess it makes sense because it's a new version. I will say, though, Jez, when it showed up, it was like Xbox Game Studios and then Asobo. I got so hyped for like 2 seconds because I was like, Asobo? I was like, oh my God, they're making something for Xbox? Holy crap. Because you know how much I love Plague Tale and stuff, right? So I'm like, yes. And then it was like Microsoft Flight Sim. I'm like, no. It's like,
I was surprised actually. I was like, I thought the same as you. I was like, oh my God, Asobo is making something new, and it was like, oh,
and it was like Microsoft Flight Sim, and I'm like, it looks good, but it's just like I'm never gonna play it. But Sea of Thieves, on the other hand, I do like it when they do these partnerships because it really is unique. It's not just here's a new season. It's by the way, we're doing something really cool. Like we did with Pirates of the Caribbean. Now we're doing something with Legend of Monkey Island. And there was even, correct me if I'm wrong, Jez, but I think they're saying that you can play this thing, Legend of Monkey Island, in single player. Like you don't have to contend with other like pirates or something. Is that true? Did I read that correctly?
I'm honestly not sure. I mean, I think like there are still other players in the world, maybe, but I think like. Because it's a tall tale, right? It's what they call their story content called tall tales. I think when you're in a specific story event in a tall tale, it blocks other players from entering your area, I think. But maybe we need someone in the chat to explain us how that stuff works. Because I haven't played Sea of Thieves since launch. But are you a Monkey Island fan, Rand? I've never.
I mean, I like Monkey Island. I like Monkey Island, yeah.
I played the demo for the first one on my PC when I was a little kid, and I thought it was really funny, but that's as far as I got. That's as far as I got with Monkey Island. But it seems like that franchise has a massive fan base. It also seems like the perfect collaboration for Sea of Thieves, right?
It does, yeah. When it was like Lucasfilm was like, what? And it was like what it was. I was like, no, I mean, look, as much as I don't care about the live service stuff, I know how big Sea of Thieves is, and I know that people, it has its fan base. It's a very selfish personal opinion about what I want to see at this show. And if I was running this showcase, there would be no Sea of Thieves, there would be no Microsoft Flight Sim, there'd be no Fallout 76, there'd be no Overwatch 2, there'd be no Elder Scrolls Necrom. I wouldn't have any of that stuff. It would just be all new announcements, new indies for Game Pass, new looks at first-party things, but we would get rid of all the live service stuff. But I'm a selfish person. I'm a selfish god. Rand
you
wants
are
what
selfish.
Rand wants, right?
You're incredibly selfish.
So it's just one of those things where I get it. Sea of Thieves is important. All these other things people love. I look at it from me, I want what I want. And I wanted something new in those 9 minutes that they showed instead of that stuff. But I get it. I've complained that to Phil before about being like, hey, I like all this stuff, but please stop doing live services. And he probably just was like, okay, Rand, we will. Pat me on the head or type, right? One of those type of responses. But yeah, it is what it is. Forza Motorsport, the leak was right about the date, coming October 10th. What else we got here? They got a Starfield trailer during the middle of the show. Did this surprise you, Jez? Like when the Starfield trailer showed up?
Actually, yeah.
Because a lot of the reactions I watched were like, wait, are we just doing the Starfield Direct already? A lot of people were like, why is this here? And my line of thinking was, it's there because they probably feel not a lot of people may watch the Starfield Direct. So you still need to give them the trailer during the show, right? To let people know, one, here's Starfield. Two, there is a Direct afterwards if you didn't know. But dude, that freaking trailer was absolutely incredible.
But yeah, you're right that they put it there because not everyone was going to watch the full-blown Direct, but it was a really great trailer. It was really, really cool,
dude.
That's one of the ones I did catch, but I'm still going to go back and watch the whole thing properly. But
you need to.
I'm just totally sold on Starfield the moment you put Todd's name in the credits.
Yeah.
For first of all, but now it's sort of getting to that ridiculous, oh god, I'm sick with hype thing. But I've just been through all this with Diablo as well. Like this year is getting crazy for games. It's getting crazy.
It's been crazy for games.
We haven't had a year this good for a long time. I feel like not just Xbox, but like Nintendo's popping off. You got Spider-Man coming down, and a lot of people are really excited for Final Fantasy 16 on PlayStation as well. Like it feels like there's something great for everyone right now. Like even like City Skylines, and I know you're not into those kind of games.
I know.
City Skylines looked fucking amazing. Like the amount of control they're giving you over building your city. Like I was like when I heard they were doing City Skylines 2, I was like, how can they improve on City Skylines 1? Because that's like pretty comprehensive how like granular you can control building in that. City Skylines 2 is now one of my most anticipated games. And again, I know you're not into that.
Yeah.
But that's the point. There's something for everyone.
That is true. The variety, diversity. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like Game Pass also day one. That's a big get for this fall. That's another game in October. Like it does seem like their fall is pretty stacked for stuff. And there's even some other games like Flintlock that they showed last year. I think still supposed to come this year. Replaced. Still supposed to be coming this year. At least so that the indies that they showed were all new and they didn't show like repeats. Because then you get to a section, Jusant, Jez. Another game that really made an impact here. It's the climbing game from Dontnod.
That looked great.
Didn't it look really cool?
I was like, yeah, like Dontnod, of course, they make
Life is Strange.
Yeah. That's kind of what they're known for, but they've branched out to these sort of like more action-oriented games.
Well, yeah, their other game I think with focus is like Banisher of Eden, which I think is supposed to be coming out this year or maybe next year. But then you do something like this, where it's like built around like a mechanic. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Rhyme from Cantilla, like from a few years ago. Even though, okay, like, yeah, that one didn't have a lot of climbing, but there was just something similar to the way the world looked and the colors they were using and maybe even the storyteller direction, because I think they said there's no spoken dialogue in this game, just like there was no spoken dialogue in Rhyme. So immediately it caught my attention. And then even better, it's coming out this year. It's on Game Pass. I was like, I need this game. And then Still Wakes the Deep, a game where you're stuck on an oil rig and a narrative horror game, Jez.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That looked great, too. I saw that and thought, I'm going to stream that.
Dude, it looks so cool. Like, who would have thought of putting a game, you're stuck on an oil rig and there's something going on? Like, I was like, oh man, Jasant looks cool. And like, oh my God. Chinese Room, I think they made like Dear Esther. I forget the other game they made, but it's like, oh dude, I am like, you always give me stuff because there's also a specific type of game I enjoy, right? You gave me crap about like Planet of Lana because I enjoy games like Inside and Limbo and, you know, those kind of side-scrolling
hipster games,
whatever. But
let's call it what it is. It's hipster gaming.
That's not hipster gaming, you know.
It's
but
hipster gaming, bro.
But then you look at a game like Still Wakes the Deep, which, you know, kind of reminds me a lot of maybe Firewatch or something.
We really need to clarify this right now. Okay. You are a hipster, Rand.
That is not true at all.
You are a hipster.
Am I a hipster, chat?
Listen. Here's the evidence. You play specifically RT, sort of unique games, right? You read books. You read books, Rand. Doesn't get more hipster than that, bro. You go to coffee shops.
No, I do not go to
with
coffee
your scarf.
shops.
You wear your scarf in the coffee shop, and it's not a chain shop, an independent coffee chain with your scarf, reading your books while playing your artsy games. You're a hipster, bro. It's okay.
I'm gonna ask the community. I'm asking the Xbox 2 community: is Rand a hipster? Yes or no? It better be no, because I am not a hipster. What? It's 75% yes. You've let me down. I feel. I'm the stream right now. I'm done. I'm done with Xbox 2. How am I a hipster?
Rand. I bet you own a scarf.
I do not own a scarf. I don't think I've ever worn a scarf in my life. I don't have a fedora. I don't drink coffee. I don't go to bookstores or cafes to read books. What do you?
Never?
I've never done that. I mean, you know, back in the day, I go to Barnes and Noble to look at the books, buy them, and I leave. I wouldn't stay there.
See, you buy books in a shop
because
instead of ordering them online.
Because Amazon,
you want to smell the book.
The internet didn't exist then. It was Amazon wasn't a thing. Where were you supposed to buy them at?
I can't even imagine the world before the internet, bro. But this is my point, Rand. It's okay. You know, do you drink coffee, right?
No, I don't. I don't drink coffee. I think coffee is disgusting.
Okay.
You know, I hate the fact that people
goes to art museums.
What is this? Is this considered libel or is this slander? Which one is this?
Do you go to like art museums?
No, I've never. No, I've been to an art museum for school once, but I've never gone on my own accord. Like, see, now your whole thing. Look, and maybe I deserve this. Maybe I deserve this because I was going on this whole Jez doesn't complete games kick for a while, right? Trying to make you complete games. That was my ultimate goal, right? Which it did seep into you, and it did, I think, bother you to the point where, like, I'm going to prove Rand wrong. And how do you repay me? Now you got people thinking I'm a trendy gamer, that I only play things that essentially come out or people are talking about. And now you're going to convince people that I'm Randall Hipster. That I'm wearing a scarf with a book and I'm drinking, like, that I like smell my own farts or something.
Do you drink herbal tea?
No, I don't drink tea. I don't know. That's you.
Do you start your day with like a vegetable smoothie?
Stop it. Look what you've done.
With a pinch of cumin. Oh my god.
Yeah, someone's like, Tony's like, Rand wears skinny jeans. I'm surprised you didn't say that too.
Actually, yeah, you do wear skinny
jeans. No, I
jeans.
don't wear skinny jeans.
When I met Rand at E3, he was wearing skinny jeans. I remember now.
No, I wasn't. Are you serious? I was wearing shorts.
Nah, they were skinny jeans, bro. They were plaid skinny jeans. I remember.
Yeah, you know what, Grim? You're right. I'm not going to let him shame me for being literate. Just because I can read, that's somehow a bad thing.
I can read. Text messages.
Look at Zocker in chat. Even Zocker's here he said, Rand, you did say you can't play endgame Diablo because you have so many new games to play. Trending gamer, if I ever heard of one. What?
True.
Oh my god. I didn't know wanting to play a lot of games was a bad thing now. I guess this is Randall Hipster. Wonderful. Thank you.
I've got so many indie games from from the Steam sale I need to play.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever. Look, the fact that this poll is at 75% right now disgusts me. I'm disgusted with you guys right now.
It's okay. You'll get over it.
Either way, whatever. Still Wakes the Deep looks really great. Dungeons of Hinterberg, whatever. I mean, I wasn't really interested in it. The Cyberpunk, which you talked about a little bit earlier, right? Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty coming September 26th. So there is some distance.
September 76?
Whatever. It's live. Sometimes you say things wrong. You know me.
So hipster, you're making up words, bro.
Jez talked a little bit about Cyberpunk earlier. If you haven't played it, wait until this update because it completely changes the game. So that's what I'm gonna do. This fall is like loaded with stuff. Towerborn, which finally was showed off, looks like Castle Crashers. I wonder how all the different zones change because it's and there you can sign up for their insider program to play it. Somebody asked if I'm
going to do that.
Yeah, I did see a tweet. I think Sarah Bond tweeted it, and we also talked a little bit earlier about Hellblade 2, which was my biggest disappointment of the show. And that's not really that's a small thing. In the grand scheme of things, that's incredibly small because I had my heart set on the combat, and we didn't see it. And we didn't see it at this gameplay extended showcase. I think it was just like more dev interviews or a deeper look at the facial tech they're using. And I think you didn't expound on this, but I think you said when we talked about that, you had like an idea of why they weren't showing it or why they were like essentially keeping it hidden. Or do you remember that? Hellblade 2.
I mean, this is like unsubstantiated completely. But like increasingly, I wonder if like the way that development is these days makes it harder to make a gameplay vertical slice. Because we were talking about how much different Starblazer?
Starblazer? What's that?
Starblade. I don't know. It's a brand of hipster blazer, I guess. But Starfield looks so much different from last year to this year. And the same was true for Halo Infinite. They gave Halo Infinite a year delay. And Halo Infinite at launch looks a lot better than it did in the Craig meme showing.
Right.
It's like, and I ain't a game dev at all, obviously. But I kind of wonder, like, have we gotten to a point now where you can only make a vertical slice when you're basically that close to launch? Because there's so many, like, effects, UI, and also, like, loads of different sort of layers that we get put on a game now to make them look the way they do. So like increasingly I'm wondering like, okay, well, Hellblade is a very cinematic game. They've got a state-of-the-art motion capture studio. They've probably like written all the cutscenes and they've probably done all the cutscenes up front. And stuff like the combat flow and the UI and the sort of the connective tissue between those cutscenes, that's probably the thing they're polishing and working on right now. So, like, I would, like, presume that next year we're probably going to get the Hellblade gameplay, or maybe even, like, the Game Awards, maybe, would be a good place for Hellblade gameplay. But, yeah, I was a little disappointed not to see it, but also not completely.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't ruin the whole show. But, Jez, this next game, best new thing they showed. I wasn't really like In Exile is like whatever, Wasteland 3, the type of games they make. Bro, this skyrocketed up for me for the first party stuff. Clockwork Revolution, In Exile, steampunk, BioShock vibes with freaking time travel. I didn't know that it was going to be basically speaking directly to my soul. Not only the whole BioShock atmosphere it has, because they had to come out and say that any resemblance to BioShock Infinite was unintentional because of how much that trailer resembled BioShock Infinite's trailer. Like, first thing I thought of was like, oh, that looks like really BioShock, right? First-person shooter, and then you get the time travel stuff, and I am so looking forward to this game whenever it does come out. And I know you are you just sitting here waiting to tell me I told you so? Never doubt me before. Because you've been talking up this dev for a long time, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. No, dude, it's like, whatever.
They even blew me away.
Yeah.
Like, I did not expect it to look and feel that good. Like, I the my love I have for In Exile, a lot of it comes from their writing and their sense of humor and their penchant for unmitigated violence is the thing I love about
Unmitigated.
NX.
I like that word.
Unmitigated violence. Like, if you play Wasteland 3, it is like ridiculously over the top violent. Just needlessly violent. There's like, because one of my favorite things in Wasteland 3 is like one of the cutscenes is like, because their cutscene system is like they're first person, the cutscenes. So the game's isometric, but they have these like first person cutscenes that are like really well done, motion captured, really well animated, and really well detailed. And there's this one cutscene where like the dude you're talking to gets sniped in front of you, and he's got all his brains and stuff all over the screen, and it's just, and his eyeball just coming out and rolling around. It's just, that's In Exile. It's just unmitigated, over the top violence, like 80s style violence, And I love them for that. But I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting to see them jump up so effortlessly to first person. Like they've made like first person combat sort of games before. Like Bard's Tale is third person, but like the combat's first person. Like if you go back and play Bard's Tale, it's like very aggressively like this is a budget kind of game. But they have made the leap to AAA like it feels easy, Hopefully the game executes, but man, when like they were showing off the world and it was looking gorgeous, and it's like the concept art that leaked before. That wasn't me, by the way. Someone posted it on ArtStation when they shouldn't have done. It looked exactly like that, and I just thought, wow, this just looks magical. And then the dude pulls out the shotgun, and you see the gore come out, and it's like, yes, there's
Are you pushing him into the fan?
Yes,
or destroying a bridge and rewinding time, and then seeing like, oh, like time travel's involved because look what you did and how much darker the world is and stuff. I'm like, I saw that. I'm like, oh my god, I need this game now, please.
They were talking about in interviews how like it's still a true In Exile game with stats and RPG layers and choice and consequence and stuff like that, because they do that really, really well. Like Wasteland 3, like you can vastly change the outcomes of each individual tribe in that game based on how you go through the game and stuff. And it really comes together at the end, like how Dragon Age does, and the BioWare games, where it's like the factions you help in the game come and help you out at the end, and all that kind of stuff. All those sorts of sensibilities are going to be present in this game, in a first-person action game that really looks like it's carrying the torch for BioShock. Like, where the hell is BioShock, man?
I don't know. There's reports that it might be going through dev hell or something, but
how are you going to squander a franchise like BioShock, man? But the developer who's working on, the lead director, made Arcanum, which I didn't know. So like Arcanum came out in 2001, and it's hugely influential across everything. It's a Sierra game from back in the day, and he's the creative director for this game, so you just know it's going to be something special. That was for me. Starfield was game in the show, but Starfield's kind of in a category of its own. So, like, not counting Starfield, Clockwork Revolution was completely game of the show for me. And it really proves that Brian Fargo in Exile and the team there, they're going to be a pillar for a studio for Microsoft, undoubtedly.
No, I can't wait for that game. And then we had Phil Spencer come out and give his usual wrap-up speech, basically explain everything you saw and being like, these are games coming this year. These are our partners. These are games coming later. But then they ended it with like an announcement, Jez, of, hey, Series X stock is fixed, which resulted in, I don't know if you saw this, but sales spiking at Amazon, at GameStop, and a whole bunch of other places where people, at least from what little data you have, being like, all right, we like the show enough, let us go buy some Xbox Series X's, right? And then he made the announcement of like, hey, we heard you. You want more storage. Here's an Xbox Series S back in black, so a black one, with 1 terabyte SSD instead of 512, but for $350 instead of $299. And okay, just in time for Starfield, right? September 1st, which is the date that you can start playing Starfield early, right? Because it's the 2 versions of Starfield come with early access, which is they're doing the Forza thing, which I think works perfectly. If you want to play Starfield early, you either got to buy the $100 version or the $300 version that comes with the watch, or if you're a member of Game Pass, you can upgrade for $35 and play it 5 days early. How many people are going to pay that extra money to play Starfield 5 days early, especially if the reviews are incredible, right? So many people.
I mean, I'm reviewing the game for Windows Central, and I had to
surprise.
Yeah, I plan to. I don't know if they'll give me a code. Maybe they'll just be like, "Fuck that Jez guy," you know. But I aspire to review Starfield on Windows Central. But I still had to stop myself from pre-ordering it just because I was just like, immediately, I need to get the early access. When I was like, well, what if I get the review code? You know.
True.
So I think it's at the top of Steam right now.
Yes,
it is at the top of Steam, even though they haven't tried to hide the fact it's on Game Pass. It's at the top of Steam right now. That it's going to make a monster amount of money. But I do think it's interesting that increasingly they're doing this early access thing to try and make money on top of Game Pass as well, which could be kind of like, you know, a hint that they feel like we're going to cannibalize a lot of potential sales here by having this in Game Pass, you know. But I think a lot of people will pay for the early access.
Dude, I mean, a lot of people paid for Forza Horizon 5 early access.
A lot of people paid for Diablo early access.
And people are just going to pay. And it's like, yeah, I'm Game Pass Ultimate. I'm Game Pass whatever. My $10. And I'm going to give them I'm going to give them $35 to play it early. And I don't even own the game. It's smart, but it only works for games that people are dying to play. It doesn't work for a game like Redfall or even a game like Minecraft Legends, really. But when you have a game that's incredibly anticipated, like your Diablo 4s or your Starfield, and if it's really good, gamers have FOMO like you wouldn't believe, where they want to be, I don't want to wait, I need to play it. And okay, $100 might be too much for some people, but $35 isn't, especially if you're already subscribed to Game Pass. So it's like, if you have 30 million members and they're subscribed, and you can get an extra 35 from them to get some of them playing early, I don't see why you wouldn't do that, right? If you're the company, to make extra money on that stuff. But I will say that whole thing was kind of weird, where like Phil's like, we heard you about storage, so guess what? You can buy another console. It's like, what? I mean, because I was like, okay,
that was
are they going to announce? Because my first thought was, okay, hey, Phil, here's the Series X. You know, we fixed the supply. Okay, great, because we've been wondering for a while what's up with the supply of the Series X. But Phil's like, by the way, it's fixed. And we have more storage options. I thought they were just going to reveal like the Western Digital stuff that was just announced and is out now, and being like, you can buy these things and here's the price, because they just sort of dropped the price on them, right? It's $150 for a terabyte. But then they're like, no, here's a console that you can buy. We've heard you. You want more storage. Here's a brand new console to buy. It was like, okay, whatever. I mean, I guess, sure. And then you get into the Starfield stuff, Jez. Oh my god.
Well, I wouldn't mind the announcing a new console if they had a good trading program.
Sure.
I mean, the fact of the matter is they just don't. They don't have a good trading program, and like Samsung and Apple get away with selling you a new phone incrementally every year because you can trade it in and get a good 60% or more off the price. Like, I have like literally no qualms about upgrading my Samsung phone every 2 or 3 years because the trading programs are just so damn good. Why doesn't Microsoft have this kind of stuff? You know, and I don't know logistically like how it works. Like, what do they do with the old Xbox? What would they do with the old Xbox Series S? Do they repurpose it, or I don't know. Could they use the silicon in their servers or something? I don't know. They should figure it out, because if they do want to do this kind of stuff, they need a training program. They need one for Surface as well, and they need one for their other stuff. Like, it'd be great if I could trade in like my Elite Series 2 when the Series 3 rolls around and get like a little discount. Because if you try and do that like via GameStop, I always get them mixed up. If you try and do that via Game or GameStop or something like that, they'll give you like 20 cents for like a brand new Xbox Series X. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
it was weird. It was weird. You're right.
So the poll here, Jez, 560 votes. Shout out to everybody who's been here. Shout out to the people who voted. Hit the like button, subscribe, please. Get us on to 100K. Get us up to 96 soon. So 73% say yes, Rand is a hipster, and 26%. I am so disappointed with you guys right now. Like, seriously. You know, I was thinking about making more videos and stuff, but you know what? You guys don't deserve more videos, especially if you think I'm a hipster. Unbelievable.
Well, you could make hipster videos.
Like what? What would be hipster videos? Starfield is trash. Is that a hipster video?
No, about your books or something, or discuss
about
like
my books?
what your favorite teas are or something.
Maybe I could do what you do, like discuss anime, like a hipster.
Anime is not hipster.
Discuss which anime is better and which manga is the best. Like a bunch of hipsters.
Yeah, true.
Starfield Direct, Jez. I know I didn't tell you this before. I've said it on my stream, but when we've discussed Starfield in the past, I always said I was looking forward to it because it's sci-fi. I'm not the biggest fan of Fallout, but I do like Elder Scrolls quite a bit. The reason Starfield was really interesting to me was the sci-fi angle, because I am a sci-fi nut, right? But it wasn't like one of those games where it was even in my top 5 for the year. Like when we talked about most anticipated games for the year, it was always Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and even now at the end of the year, it was Alan Wake 2 because of how much I just love Remedy, and I can't believe we're finally getting a sequel to Alan Wake. Starfield was always there, but it was like there's other games I'm more interested in. After this Starfield Direct, I don't know what I'm more anticipating, Alan Wake 2 or this game. That is how much they elevated the game's prestige in my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I couldn't believe the improvements that they made from just a year ago, where the gunplay was like, that kind of looks janky, and it doesn't seem to run very well. I mean, yeah, okay, the scope and stuff is insane, but I don't know. To this year, where you're like, I don't think they made a single misstep with that presentation, where the gunplay looks fantastic, the game, like the visuals of the different worlds, or when like everything looked too good to be true almost. That was the kind of thing I got from it. Was like, this seems like one of the most ambitious games ever. It seems like you're getting 5 things at once. Like, sure, you have the main story and all the huge towns and the NPCs and the crazy quests you'll go on with combat that actually looks fun to play. And I'd imagine maybe the AI is probably not that smart because they didn't really even touch on enemy AI, right? But then it's like, you have the base building stuff that, I think they started in Fallout 4 that I'm sure people will delve in, right? You have the ship stuff, but not only like the ship building stuff where you can make whatever you want. They built the freaking Voltron, people. They built the Voltron and flew it around. But it's not just that. It actually affects the inside of the ship. So it's not only you fly the ship around and you can create the ship yourself or do whatever, you actually go inside the ship. It's like a freaking mobile base. And have all your companions there, so you have all that stuff. But then you have the space combat stuff, where you could go be a pirate. You can destroy other ships and steal their loot, or like dock on other ships, and then take that ship and it becomes part of your fleet, or visit space stations, or luxury. Like, holy crap! Like the amount of things you can do, I was just blown away by the breadth and the vastness that this game was presenting to me, to the point where I'm like, maybe this is like the next Skyrim, essentially. Like, now I maybe understand why they bought Bethesda, right? Like, after Redfall, everyone's like, oh man, $7 billion for that trash. It's like, oh, everybody's like worried about Starfield and what Xbox could do. After this thing, I'm like, holy crap, if they nail this, If they can deliver on all the promises of what they had, and there's not any like smoke screens, right? You're talking about an all-time game. Bro, like seriously, that was the best single presentation for a game I've ever seen. I don't think anything else even compares to it. You know, a 40-minute deep dive. And it elevated the Xbox show as well, because you got to look at all these other games, from Fable to South of Midnight to Clockwork Revolution, all the stuff on Game Pass and the indies. But then the most important thing was like, here's a game that is coming out in a couple months, a 40-minute look on it that looks better than you could possibly have thought just a year ago. And not only that, it's in Game Pass. And people are looking at it, oh yeah, I'm sold on Xbox now. Give me a Series X, right? Give me Game Pass. I need this stuff. That's why the Jeff Keighley poll is basically like an A. It's probably, and I'm sure the feedback Xbox is getting from people when they do their their research is probably like, yeah, this is the best show they've ever done. Keep it this way. I mean, I know you've always been in like Starfield's going to be amazing camp, but like, what did the Direct do for you?
I think like the Starfield Direct, there's no words.
There's no words.
It's
You're
Like,
speechless.
there's
okay.
no words. It's kind of like what you said. It almost feels too good to be true. And there's that sort of nagging thing in the back of your mind where you think Todd said a lot of this stuff when Fallout 76 came out.
Sure, yeah. That's why there's some
difference
healthy skepticism, but even still, I'd rather be excited about something than jaded about something. But yeah.
I mean, yeah, like, definitely rather be excited about something than jaded about something. But there's still that undercurrent, like, not from... I genuinely believe this isn't a 76 situation. I genuinely believe they are going to hit, and I've heard the game has been playable start to finish since December, and that basically the last several months has been entirely polish, find every single bug that they can and polish them up and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not worried about Starfield. But when you look at the wider conversation, like some of the PC subreddits, they're joking around like, don't believe his lies,
Right.
Todd Howard and stuff. 20,000 upvotes on some of these kind of posts, because Bethesda really did damage their brand image. I feel like they damaged their image with Fallout 76, and like a sort of run of games that were kind of like not what Bethesda were kind of known for. Like during their pivot to multiplayer sort of era, right? So for me, like, I kind of knew that the game was going to be this good. I believed it, and I've been hearing about it for months. To see it all sort of play out and in a way that it did, it sort of felt like this is it. This is like we go back to 2020, Rand, when we're talking about like Microsoft needs a game like Cyberpunk into Xbox Game Pass to really push it to the masses. That was before we knew that Cyberpunk was a mess on Xbox, for reference. But like the sort of visibility that a marketing cycle for a game like Cyberpunk or Diablo or Starfield will bring to Game Pass is going to elevate Game Pass to that next level. Kind of like how movies like shows like Stranger Things or Wednesday or Squid Game kind of do for Netflix. Like Netflix puts a lot of stuff onto its service, but it's these sort of like viral hit TV shows that really elevate it and make people think like, oh, actually, I do need a persistent Netflix presence in my life, because I do want to watch the next Witcher series, or I do want to watch the next Squid Game series if they do one, or whatever, So for me, it felt like this is the Xbox we've been waiting for very patiently for several years. And, it's just incredible. Just incredible. There's just no words. I'm just over the moon for the team, over the moon for myself as an avowed Todd devotee. and I just want to play the game at this point.
Yeah,
Just want to play the game, baby.
We need to talk about the 30 frame stuff when we get some of these super chats. The Wolf says, just finished Final Fantasy 16 demo. Amazing. Only issue is I couldn't play it on my favorite console, Xbox. Hope Phil can make progress with Square. I hope so too. Geo says, been watching from day one. You are awesome. Do you agree that Microsoft needs to beef up their studios or acquire support studios? Hellblade taken forever. I mean, they always need more studios and support studios as well. Hellblade, I think, ran into the issue of the pandemic. I think shut down their performance capture stuff for a while, which is probably one of the reasons it's taking as long as it did. And also, I think Unreal Engine 5 as well. There's no Unreal Engine 5 games that are out, and I think there's a reason for that, because I think the engine is still a work in progress. We have the very first one coming out in July. We know a lot of Xbox studios are working on Unreal Engine 5 titles. I also think how the engine stuff is a reason for some of the games taking a bit longer this time, is because of that,
I've heard the engine's been described to me as monstrously bloated. Like I ain't a developer, but it sounds like a tough engine to work with. So, but I've also heard that the stuff emerging as a result of that engine is absolutely mind blowing. So hopefully it's worth the wait.
Yeah. So, Sifu says, Jez, you mean hippie? No, he means hipster. So
yes, Rand is a hipster.
Yeah,
not a hipster.
We have Ponybot Worcestershire, who says, can Rand say Worcestershire 5 times fast? Worcestershire. How do you say the word, Jez? How do you say it?
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire. There you go. That's 5 times fast.
Brilliant.
Otaku. I'm glad Xbox is finally getting a game to compete with the Uncharted games. Jusant looks like the climbing simulator that can finally rival the series. Yeah. Mr. J, you guys think Starfield could beat Zelda for Game of the Year? I'm not going to go that far. I think Zelda still has it all wrapped up, but it'll have some competition if, like I said, the Starfield Direct was so incredible. I do have some skepticism, but I'd rather be excited for something than to sit there and be like, it's shit, there's something wrong, and just like cry about it. Because what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, gaming's all, I don't know. I'd rather be super pumped about something and disappointed than always view everything from like a cynical, jaded experience where you're not even excited about your favorite hobby. At that point, I just wouldn't even play video games if I felt like that, right?
Yeah, there's way too many content creators who I'm convinced don't actually like games.
Yeah, there's a lot of them I'm convinced that don't actually play the games they say they play, or at least don't beat the games they say they beat, Yeah. But hey, you can always look at my profile, Randall Thor 19 on Xbox. Randall Thor 19 is on PlayStation. It's all linked in the description. If you ever want to see if I'm actually playing the games I'm talking about and if I've beat something or not, it's open. My profile's not closed. It's wide open. You guys can see what I'm playing. So we talk about it here too, about that stuff. But it's to me, it's all about. I'd rather just be happy with something. Inematic Dream says, you're not a hipster, Rand. Don't listen to Jez. He puts beans on toast and mayo fries. Can't trust him. I want Tomb Raider and Resident Evil to be bought by Microsoft. So he's got big things there. Big dreams. So the new thing though, it's not just about Starfield and what it showed and how it played. The 30 FPS talk. Right? Phil did say we would know, it would be clear what the frame rate is. They didn't say it during the showcase, the Direct. So it's kind of like, oh man, it's probably 30. Todd did say in an interview with Ryan McCaffrey that they wanted to go after fidelity and that it was a creative choice, and it's 4K 30 on the Series X and 1440p 30 on the Series S, which has led to a lot of discussion about, is that acceptable on a $500 console for Starfield to be locked at 30, after especially we just had the whole debacle with Redfall and all that stuff. How do you personally feel about the 30 frame stuff? Are people arguing in bad faith? Is it a problem? Is it going to affect if people actually play the game and buy the game? Is it a valid concern? What do you think?
I think it will create a wave of triggeredness on PC, because I do think like a lot of people who play games at 60 frames per second now, or maybe more, 120 frames or whatever, for first person shooters, they're going to be surprised at how much overhead this game has. Like, the fact that like you can build spaceships that fly, and there's like zero G, where the projectiles, the projectile strength of your weapons affects how you float in zero G with the recoil and stuff like that. All those like little creation engine details that other games don't really have in a dynamic sort of way. It's a sandbox engine. It's a full blown sandbox engine. Like, every building, like there'll be a lot of handcrafted models which are just sort of static, but a lot of the buildings will be like put together like Lego bricks, you know. And this is the reason why, like, even games like Wild Hearts recently, like Wild Hearts main city hub was put together by its building mechanics, I think, and that's why it's laggy, you know, because it's like, it's not a static background. It's sort of like all these sort of, it has to remember the positional and the function of all these objects that you place in the world, and that's Wild Hearts, you know. And it's just like, it's not, you know, it's not Starfield, where you can fill up a spaceship with ham sandwiches as they showed in the trailer.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
Every object is interactive. Every single object is interactive and dynamic. Every rock, every tree, all that kind of stuff. So you create, if you're having a system where there's no fakery, there's no like the book you see on a table is an actual book. It's not just glued to the table. It's not a static background object. It's an actual book that you can pick up and manipulate in your hands and throw it around ragdoll physics and read it and then interact with the book. You know, it's Skyrim and Fallout. All these games are based on a creation engine, right? And then you layer on all the visual effects they're putting in, like global illumination and all this kind of stuff. And you arrive at an unfortunate reality that they are building something that is highly complex, and that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X would not be able to run this game higher than 30 frames per second. You know, they've used the GPU to push the resolution to 4K, but like, just lowering the resolution, it's not going to give you the frames back. Maybe you could get like to 440 FPS unlocked, or dipping between 35 and 40, you know. But a lot of people don't have variable refresh rates, and I kind of appreciate the sentiment that we should be given a choice. Like, maybe there should be a choice of 40p and run it at an unlocked frame rate, 35 to 40 frames per second with variable refresh rates and VSync or whatever. I appreciate that sentiment, and I kind of like agree to some degree. But Microsoft will have data that suggests that most people don't ever touch those settings. You know, they'll have data that most people, if a game defaults to 30 and has a performance mode, Microsoft has data that most people don't ever touch those settings. They don't even ever open the settings menu. You know, it's that they don't open the settings menu. So, you know, so I agree with those sentiments. But I'm on the record for years at saying that I'm happy to play a game at 30 frames per second if it's single player and it's cinematic and whatever. I watch a movie at 30 frames per second,
24,
24 or whatever, and it doesn't bother me. Like, I play Pokemon at 30 frames per second, or 25 or less frames per second on the Switch sometimes. It doesn't bother me, you know, because this is an Overwatch. You know, I play Overwatch at 120 hertz on my TV, you know, because it's competitive and it's reactive and it's fast paced and all that kind of stuff. Starfield is not that kind of game. It's not a Twitch shooter. It's an RPG. So I am on the record of being completely comfortable with the filmic experience, and hence
yeah. I mean, you started the whole filmic thing.
Yes. We have our filmic emote for members.
I didn't even think Todd even mentioned filmic.
Did he really?
I think he even did in one of the things. The 30 FPS stuff is, I think a lot of it is born out of, because people always bring up, oh, you survived the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One gen where everything was 30, but then you got a taste. Console gamers got a taste of 60.
We did.
Right?
We did
and ignorance is bliss. Let's say, like, yeah, you're playing 30 frames games on the 360 and Xbox One. You don't know any better unless you're playing stuff on PC. That's what it is. But then you get a taste of 60. More games start doing performance modes. Then pretty much every game this gen has been 60. And then a couple games here and there, like the newer ones, get in 30. And you're like, man, this just doesn't feel as good to play. But then you get to Starfield, and it's like, with how complex the game is, with all the different systems, with the keeping track of all the different items everywhere, it didn't seem like a game that was going to be 60. I let my heart get away with me in my predictions, because all year and forever I've been like, it'll be 30. But then when I was doing my prediction video, I wanted to believe. I wanted to believe that they could do it. And I was like, I let my heart run away with me and be like, there'll be a 60 mode, or at least like a performance mode. But it's clear it's not. And they're talking about it being.
I think I said on the show before the LA stuff that if they do performance mode, it'll be via stripping away the interactivity of the world,
which they
didn't
want to do, right?
Yeah, in Fallout 76, you lose that interactivity. Like the objects in the world don't have ragdoll physics anymore. You know, they're not affected by being blown up, or not to the same degree. And the CPU overhead in Fallout 76 is being used to power the building and the multiplayer, you know, for better or worse. So, like, a lot of people in chat are saying like, "Oh my god, no game should be 30 frames per second." But it's like, yeah, okay, well, then it wouldn't be Starfield anymore. You know, you wouldn't have that interactivity. I don't understand why people can't understand this. Like, if you lowering the resolution is not going to give you those frames back. This is a CPU heavy engine where like everything is connected together. It has to track the positional and the connectivity of all the objects you put together in the world. You know, the bodies don't disappear. Like if you throw like a tiny little object in a room, like a bullet, it will stay there forever in the game because that's the creation engine. So like at the end of the day, it's kind of like you can have 60 frames per second, but then it would no longer be Starfield. It'd be Far Cry. You know, in Far Cry, everything's static. Yeah, it's 60 frames, great. But it's a flat, bland, open world with no interactivity whatsoever. You know, this is not a shooter. This is not an open world shooter. This is a sandbox RPG of the Bethesda brand, of the Bethesda tradition. Skyrim was 30 frames. Fallout 3 was 30 frames. You know, these are CPU intensive games.
Yeah, to be fair, though, the game's going to be 60 on PC if your PC rig can run it at 60.
Yeah, but there won't be many people running this game at 60.
I don't know. The requirements for it don't seem that heavy. Like the recommended specs and stuff don't seem that outrageous to the point where I think it was like a 2080 was the recommended GPU, and maybe
that's what I'm saying. It's a CPU.
I know, but even like the CPU wasn't that high of a CPU either when I saw them.
But they are requiring an SSD, which is irregular for a PC game.
Either,
you know, there's things they can do on PC that, you know, with regards to overhead that just Xbox and PlayStation 5 just aren't capable of. You know, we're starting to see that these consoles are kind of like already maxing out when it comes to complexity. And I think like you're gonna see more games hit 30 frames as a baseline, where they opt not to sacrifice complexity to deliver the games they want to deliver. What was that game now? Plague Tale Requiem. That was not 60 frames either, was it?
No, it was 30, and then it was 40 if you had 120 hertz mode on your TV, and they just delivered a 60 FPS patch like 7 months later. I mean, Jez, I'll just say like it's disappointing as someone who like wants to play stuff in 60. I like understand why, and I never expected 60 despite me like my heart wanting it. And this isn't like a Redfall thing where Redfall was always shown at 60, always shown on PC, was 60 on the box, and Microsoft had to pull a 180 and even hide it on the box, where it was like, no, right? It's like, this was going to be this, and now it's not. they've never shown this game running at 60. It's always been shown off at 30. They've been pretty consistent with that. Is it disappointing? Yeah. Will I get over it? Absolutely. Like, it'll be probably like that first time when you get in there and move the camera, it'll be like, ugh. But then it'll just be like,
you adjust to it.
Fine. And if you want, if you want 60, there's a version. If you want to play it on PC, I get like the whole most powerful console. You paid $500 for it. It should do 60. I'm not really a developer, but I have seen a lot of developers come out on Twitter to explain to people why potentially this game isn't doing that, right? They even talked about in the interviews that it's a creative choice. So you're going to get what you're going to get. You're going to get Starfield at 30 on console. And, will that, affect how people review the game or people buying the game? I don't think so. It didn't affect Zelda whatsoever. That game sold 10 million in 3 days. Yeah. It's going to win Game of the Year. And, that game hardly hits 30 on the Switch. Nobody cares because it's kind of like me with Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which reviewed incredibly well, but everybody said the performance was shit. But the thing was, the game was so good that the performance stuff didn't really, it doesn't affect like how you feel about the game itself. And if Starfield's the same way, where everything about the game is just top notch, the frame rate's not going to affect your enjoyment of the title, just like it wouldn't with Zelda or Star Wars Jedi Survivor, at least in my opinion. So, but I mean, I get it. I get it. Some people are like, hey, I want 60. I want you to turn down the stuff. I wish there was at least an option or a mode. I get it, man, because I would rather play everything in 62. I know some people will be like, well, just play it on PC, Rand. I don't really like PC. I'm not going to do it. And I don't even think my PC could even run it at 60. Anyways, I'd have to
No, it couldn't
upgrade it, but
Oh man. I like what annoys me is the hypocrisy, right? Because a lot of people get triggered when you say, well, you stand for Zelda at 28 frames per second or whatever, with slowdown, but you're mad about Starfield, and people are like, oh, the Switch is XYZ, it's not as powerful as the Xbox Series X. But it's like, so wait, are we criticizing Starfield's gameplay, or are we criticizing the console? What are you mad about exactly? Because like, if it's like you can't play a game at 60 frames per second, why are you okay with playing Zelda at 30 frames per second? I mean, if you can't play a game at 30 frames per second, how come you're okay with Nintendo Switch games at 30 frames per second, right? Like, and then, okay, well, if you are okay with 30 frames per second, then are you mad at Microsoft for marketing the console? Is it the messaging you're mad about? Is it what are you mad about? Or are you just arguing in bad faith because you're a fanboy? And I think oftentimes that is the case. That a lot of the YouTubers especially are tying themselves in knots where there's receipts of them talking about how great Zelda is and how great other games are at 30 frames per second. And then they go off and say that, oh, Starfield's a disaster because it's 30 frames per second. It's just in bad faith. If we're talking about purely from a gameplay perspective, if you enjoy playing Zelda, whatever, see, someone in chat said it, Zelda's on a handheld. So what? It's on a handheld. Do you not still enjoy it? Is it impossible to enjoy knowing that it's 30 frames per second? I don't understand that argument. It just makes no sense. Yeah, and again, Switch is an old system. So what if it's an old system? Do you enjoy playing the games on it at 30 frames per second? If you do, then why can't you play Starfield at 30 frames per second? Are you criticizing the Xbox, or are you criticizing 30 frames per second? I don't get it. Yeah, like, are you mad about 30 frames per second? Or whatever. Okay, so if you're mad about the messaging of Microsoft talking about how great the power is and stuff like that, that's completely fine. Like, I would totally agree with you that it was probably irresponsible of Microsoft to say that 60 FPS is going to be the baseline. But at the same time, it's like most 90% of games are 60 frames per second, And I would personally say that, they haven't exactly lied about it. They, at the end of the day, Most games are 60 frames per second. Okay, so I think I just don't see it as a big deal. It's just why is it a big deal?
I don't think it's a big deal either. It's just disappointing.
People are making it a big
but
deal.
Yeah, but people make big deals out of everything. That Twitter's an echo chamber sometimes, and I don't think it'll translate into anything meaningful, right? So I don't know. We'll get more.
I literally don't care. I literally do not care. If every single player game was Xbox was 30, I literally wouldn't care. I'm on the record of saying this for months. I sometimes, like when I play Cyberpunk, sometimes I flip between 30 frames and 60 frames because I'm just kind of like I want to see. Sometimes I want to like when it's raining in Cyberpunk. Sometimes I flip on ray tracing just because I want to see how gorgeous it is. So I think like the point is, if there is an option, if there is some kind of way that we could get an option to have this, that would be the ideal scenario. But at the same time, I personally don't care for a single player game. Like you will adjust to it, If everyone here played games on 360 just fine, and like, who cares, man?
Well, we have Lee T. Sanders asking, could Starfield take the Zelda Game of the Year crown, though? I mean, depends how good Starfield is. At the end of the day, I think Zelda still has it wrapped up, though. And Jay Foley says, hey, Jez, did you get any news on Project Keystone?
I did not, but it's something I'm still working on. Like, there was a lot of things that we couldn't ask, It's always tough getting them to answer things they don't want to talk about, But I'm still digging.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they've pivoted away from Keystone because of how good the Asus is. Because the Asus ROG Ally and like other handhelds that are coming down the pipeline, you've got to expect Razer's probably making one, and other companies are going to be making these handhelds. If I was Microsoft, I'd be like, should we be pursuing cloud so hard, or should we be working with OEMs to make Xbox gaming on PC as good as it possibly can? Because these devices are probably going to be your handheld Xbox way more than cloud will be. I used to be really bullish on cloud, but after having the Asus, I'm just like, cloud's great, but I want this. Oh, man.
Yeah. And I think with that, we went a little bit longer than we thought, but we had a lot to say. So that's going to be the end of this special episode of the Xbox 2. I think we're going to try to do a big show with some guests on Friday. So that should be a lot of fun to get a little bit more perspectives on certain stuff than just me and Jez. So look forward to that. We do have Paris coming on Xbox 2 plus 1. We need to lock down the date for that. And another Xbox 2 Ultimate show later in the month. So the Patreon content will be coming. But we wanted to get this like just me and Jez reaction to the showcase out for you guys to enjoy and listen to. It'll be up later tomorrow on, Apple and Spotify and all that stuff. If you're there, we love you. Give us a good review or a bad review, 5 stars, what have you. If you enjoyed the show, hit the like button and subscribe. And we should be back on Friday, hopefully, with a bunch of people. And until then, keep it gaming and have a great rest of the week. Later, guys.
Take care, everybody. Love you.